divine and mysterious immortality, I start my cultivation by adding points as a butcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 926 Hot Potato. 2 years later. In the secret room. Wei Hong sat cross-legged on the golden silk cushion, his eyes closed, his hands placed on his knees in a training posture, and a faint green light appeared outside his body. Unlike the clear light emitted when practicing the green light sword technique, the green light emitted by practicing the Green Emperor longevity technique is not aggressive at all, nor does it make people feel like a thorn in the back. Instead, it seems very peaceful and has a sense of vitality, as if it is full of powerful vitality and energy. After a while, Wei Hong slowly finished the exercise. As he exhaled lightly, the green light on his body slowly dissipated, and he slowly opened his eyes. 2 years have passed in a flash, and it's almost time to go back. At this time, 2 years have passed since he first entered the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. During these 2 years, he has been practicing in this secret room and has never stepped out of the secret room. In the past 2 years, Wei Hong has replaced the paper figures every once in a while to keep them in a continuous mining state, and the progress is not bad. Besides, he would also take the time to re-inject mana into the replaced paper figures, so as to ensure that there would be no interruption in the mining work, so as to maintain the maximum work efficiency. In addition to these, Wei Hong has been constantly refining pills and drawing talismans in the past 2 years, while deepening the theoretical research of array formations, striving to make every skill of his own not lag behind. After 2 years of study and practice, his proficiency and success rate in refining pills, drawing talismans and array formations have greatly improved. First of all, the success rate of refining the 3 kinds of elixirs, Xianling Dan, Jiningan and Ningzhen Dan, has increased to 20%. In the future, as long as he uses the vitality points to improve his realm, breaking through the success rate of 40% or even 50%, it will not be a problem to surpass the realm of the Master of Alchemy. Secondly, in terms of drawing talismans, he had successfully drawn the Luoding Xianjia talisman more than a month after the retreat began. After more than a month of practice, he also successfully drew the Zuanmu Burst Thorn talisman. After more than a year of continuous study, his success rate in drawing these 2 third-level inferior talismans has reached almost 20%. Such an achievement, and it was achieved in just 2 years. If other cultivators knew about it, they might not believe it at all. After finishing his practice, Wei Hong stood up and put away the golden silk cushion while muttering to himself, "It is indeed time to go back. I have been away from the Immortal City for 2 years and I don't know if anything has happened. Besides, after 2 years of practice, the materials I bought before have basically been used up. I must return to the Immortal City to replenish them. The most important thing is that I have harvested a lot of black crystal stones." Thinking of this, Wei Hong was in a good mood. After 2 years of continuous excavation by the paper man, he has harvested a lot of black crystal stone ore. Although the black crystal stone vein has not been completely dug out, considering that these black crystal stones need to be sold before they can be exchanged for spiritual stones, he did not hesitate and decisively chose to stop. Anyway, there are not many black crystal stones left here, not to mention that he can continue to come here to dig later. This place is so secret and covered by the formation, it is absolutely impossible for outsiders to find it. Let's go back and take a look first. Wei Hong packed up all his things and quietly left the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. There were no accidents during the departure, and he returned to the Immortal City smoothly. As soon as he returned to the Immortal City and had not yet returned to his cave, Wei Hong met Yang Yi, who was about to go out. "Hey, Brother Mu, are you done with your retreat?" Seeing Wei Hong appear, Yang Yi greeted him with a surprised look on his face. Because Wei Hong had been gone for 2 years, although the time was not long, he had just served as a guest official for a short time, so naturally some people were paying attention to his whereabouts. Yang Yi was actually just asking casually, and naturally did not dare to inquire about other people's secrets. Wei Hong smiled and nodded, "Haha, that's right. You've been out for a while. Are you going out, Brother Yang?" "Yes, I want to go out and find some materials." Yang Yi also nodded and admitted it, then waved his hand at Wei Hong and said, "Then Yang will take his leave first. I'll invite you to have a small gathering when I come back." Wei Hong had no objection and immediately smiled and said, "Haha, okay, Brother Yang, take care." After that, Yang Yi immediately took his leave and left. Wei Hong did not return to the cave directly. After thinking about it, he went straight to the market. Now he has accumulated a large number of black crystal stones, which are things that need to be sold urgently. But what is the specific price of black crystal stones, and how to sell this batch of black crystal stones in his hands? These things should be found out first, so as not to cause any trouble. After all, the value of black crystal stones is not cheap. Once people know that he has such a batch of black crystal stones of huge value, maybe someone will really take risks. Such things must be avoided if they can be avoided. Thinking of this in his heart, Wei Hong soon walked into a large store. 3 hours later, in the cave, Wei Hong sat at the stone table in the pavilion, gently picked up a cup of spiritual tea and took a sip. After putting down the teacup, he frowned and said to himself, "I didn't expect that although this black crystal stone is valuable, it is not easy to sell it." Thinking of the results he had just secretly inquired, a trace of helplessness flashed across his face. Just now, he first asked 2 large shops about the price of black crystal stones and his true appearance, and then changed his identity to secretly inquire about how to sell black crystal stones. After he secretly inquired from many parties, he soon got the answer he wanted. According to the information Wei Hong got, it is difficult to sell this batch of black crystal stones, but it is also easy to say that it is easy. It depends on how he chooses. First of all, the price of black crystal stones is indeed high, and the price varies according to the weight of the black crystal stones. In simple terms, the heavier the weight, the more valuable it is. Secondly, it is not difficult to sell black crystal stones. According to the information he inquired, there are currently 2 options in front of him. The first is to sell it directly to Kangshan Immortal City. It's just that Kangshan Xiancheng can indeed take all the black crystal stones in Wei Hong's hands, but the price will not be very high, at least much lower than the market price. This choice is safe and reliable. Second, it can be sold through large shops. If it is sold directly to those large shops, there will naturally be no big problem with the price. It is completely sold according to the market price. However, this choice has a lot of risks and some uncertain factors. This is some of the information Wei Hong just found out, and he is a little hesitant at this time. I didn't expect such a good thing to become a hot potato. It seems that this choice is really not easy to make. Wei Hong smiled bitterly and shook his head, unable to make a decision for a while. Chapter 927 Golden Elixir Trade Fair. Wei Hong was lost in thought and did not make a decision immediately. His eyes flickered slightly, and he was obviously thinking about how to sell this batch of black crystal stones completely. In theory, selling to Xiancheng is the safest choice, but the price offered by Xiancheng is at least 30% lower, which is a huge difference in spiritual stones. Also, if I sell it to Xiancheng, it would be difficult to explain the origin of this batch of black crystal stones. I am now a guest of Xiancheng. If the city lord Lei Ling and others ask, how should I answer? Not appropriate, still not appropriate. Wei Hong shook his head and decisively gave up the first choice. If he wanted to sell it to Xiancheng, he would have to trade with Xiancheng in his original identity, which would cause more trouble. Although Xiancheng would not deduct any spiritual stones, they would definitely find a way to find out the origin of his batch of black crystal stones, which would be easy to be discovered. At that time, whether he answered or not would not be a good choice. After giving up the first option, he immediately considered the second option, thinking to himself, if I don't sell it to the Immortal City, should I sell it to those big shops in the city? With the financial resources of those large shops in the city, it is naturally no problem to accept this batch of black crystal stones. I am even sure that they can raise the price a little bit. Once sold, it will be an unimaginable fortune. It's just that the number of black crystal stones in my hands is too large. Once exposed, even if I show my giant in stage cultivation, there is no guarantee that someone will directly target me. Even the forces behind those large shops may take action. In this way, the risk is even greater. Not appropriate, this move is still not appropriate. Wei Hong sighed slightly, and after thinking for a long time, he gave up the plan to sell the black crystal stones to the shops. Even though he is a giant and cultivator and a guest official of Kangshan Immortal City, he still doesn't want to cause any trouble or take a big risk. After thinking about it, he sighed helplessly. It seems that the only way to choose now is the Golden Core Trade Fair. The so-called Golden Core Trade Fair was also a piece of news he heard by chance. From the perspective of the entire cultivation world, Golden Core cultivators are considered high-level cultivators. Even in the major sects, they are the backbone of the elders. Even in some small sects or small and medium-sized forces, they are still the strongest. In the absence of Yuanying cultivators, Golden Core cultivators can be regarded as the strongest. In addition, there are not many Golden Core cultivators, and the resources and materials they need for cultivation are very rare, often difficult to find or very expensive. This has caused many Golden Core cultivators to have the resources that others want to find, but they can't find the materials they want. Under such circumstances, the Golden Core Cultivator Trade Fair came into being. At this kind of high-level monks trade fair, the Jinden monks who participated in the trade fair often took out their rare materials or resources that they usually did not show to others easily, such as various rare elixirs, exercises, spells, talismans, magic weapons and puppets, etc. There are all kinds of resources. These rare resources often only require barter, which is also the default rule of the trade fair. Unless both parties agree, it is possible to trade with spiritual stones. Wei Hong wanted to go to this kind of Jinden trade fair. As far as he knew, every Jinden monk who participated in the trade fair would conceal his identity, so that he would not have to worry about being recognized and not being targeted. Therefore, at the trade fair, any rare materials might appear. If Wei Hong participated in the trade fair, it would be absolutely no problem to trade the black crystal stone without revealing his identity, and he could even get many unexpected good things. He could even choose to trade privately with other monks at the trade fair, and the organizer of the trade fair would never interfere. Thinking of this, he immediately decided, in this case, let's go to the Golden Core Trade Fair. Attending the Golden Core Trade Fair does not worry about being undercut by others, nor is it easy to be targeted by others. In this way, all his problems have been solved. However, when thinking of the Golden Core Trade Fair, Wei Hong couldn't help but feel a headache. It seems that I still have to ask Yang Yi. Generally speaking, this kind of trade fair needs someone to recommend it. Although he has entered the Golden Core stage for decades, he has only been out of the secret realm for only 2 or 3 years. He has no knowledge of the Golden Core trade fair in the Zeuxin world, and has never participated in it once, so naturally he doesn't know the information of the trade fair. But he is not worried about this problem. He can solve it by asking Yang Yi. 3 days later, Wei Hong visited again, and Yang Yi happened to be there. Haha, Brother Mu, please come in quickly. Seeing Wei Hong coming, Yang Yi immediately welcomed him in warmly. The two of them were already quite familiar with each other, so naturally they saved a lot of polite greetings. After the maid served the tea, Yang Yi asked directly, Dao Mu, is there anything that I can do for you? Haha, I knew I couldn't hide it from Dao Yang. Wei Hong laughed, put down the teacup and explained, Mu did come to visit Dao Yang for something, but it's not a big deal, and I don't dare to trouble Dao to help. I just want to ask Dao if there is a golden elixir trade fair held near this fairy city. Oh? Golden elixir trade fair? Why did Dao Mu suddenly ask this? Yang Yi's eyes flashed with a strange color, and a hint of interest appeared on his face. Wei Hong was straightforward and answered directly, Mu has some things in his hands that he wants to sell, but he can't find a suitable seller. At the same time, he also wants to go to the trade fair to broaden his horizons. After all, since he broke through to the golden elixir stage, Mu hasn't participated in any trade fairs. Whether his reason is true or false, at least it is reasonable. After listening to it, Yang Yi did not think much about it, but nodded and said, so that's how it is. No wonder fellow Taoist Mu wanted to inquire about the news of the Jinden trade fair. When Yang had just entered the Jinden stage not long ago, he also wanted to go and broaden his horizons like you. Fellow Taoist, you really asked the right person. Yang happened to have participated in 2 Jinden trade fairs. Wei Hong's face immediately lit up, and he immediately asked, oh? I hope fellow Taoist Yang can give me some advice. Haha, it's a small matter. Yang Yi smiled and waved his hand, then replied, in the Shenyi sect, 5,000 miles north of Xianshen, there is a Jinden trade fair every 5 years, and the nature of this trade fair is quite private, and there is also the Shenyi sect as a guarantor. There is no need to worry about the safety of the trade fair. No one dares to make trouble in the venue. Fellow Taoist, just go ahead with confidence. Whether the transaction is successful or not, you can indeed gain a lot of experience. Yang Yi did not hide anything and directly pointed out the nearest Jinan trade fair to Wei Hong. Chapter 928, Divine Will Sect. Shenyi Sect. Wei Hong was shocked when he heard this. This was because Shenyi Sect was one of the three major Yuanying sects in Dai Dynasty, and it was very powerful. It was said that there were 2 Yuanying stage true immortals in the Shenyi Sect, and it was definitely considered the top sect in Dai Dynasty. He didn't expect that the Golden Core Trade Fair would be related to Shenyi Sect. Yang Yi nodded and said affirmatively, yes, it is the Shenyi Sect. The Shenyi Sect is one of the top sects, and there is a Yuanying Zhenren in the sect. Naturally, no one dares to mess around in the Jinan Trade Fair held by the Shenyi Sect, and safety can be guaranteed. Moreover, this Jinan Trade Fair is not held in the Shenyi Sect. It changes its location every year. The location is very secret. Without a guide and a pass, outsiders can't find the entrance at all. When Wei Hong heard this, he immediately asked in surprise, guide and a pass. Of course, not everyone can participate at will. Yang Yi seemed to have anticipated Wei Hong's question, and immediately explained, the so-called pass is actually to prove that you are qualified to participate in this Jinan Trade Fair, and the guide is the person who is responsible for leading you after verifying the pass. Without the guide's guidance, you can't find the entrance. As for the pass, you only need someone to recommend you to get it. It happens that Yang has participated in 2 trade fairs, so he can be a recommender for fellow Taoist Mu. And the trade fair will be held in a month, so you can make it. Since Wei Hong wanted to attend the Golden Elixir Trade Fair, Yang Yi naturally didn't mind doing him a favor. This was a completely cost-effective thing for him, and he could also make friends with Wei Hong. Upon hearing this, Wei Hong was overjoyed and immediately clasped his fists and said, haha, then I would like to thank you. You can rest assured, if you need me in the future, I will definitely say no. Yang Yi immediately waved his hands and said, hey, you don't have to be polite, it's just a small matter. So he immediately took out a referral token for Wei Hong, which had a special mysterious symbol on it. Wei Hong got what he wanted, and after chatting with Yang Yi again, he said goodbye and left. 1 month later, Wei Hong turned into a stream of green light and flew straight to the north from Kangshan Fairy City. After flying thousands of miles, he made sure that no one was following him, so he immediately changed his identity and appearance, turning himself into a middle-aged man with a square face, and his aura was also restrained. Soon, he passed through several small branches of the Qianling Mountains, and then arrived near the area where the Shenyi sect was located. There were no accidents along the way. According to the map given by Yang Yi, Wei Hong did not go directly to the Shenyi sect, but flew to a market called Yuquan, preparing to get a pass in the market before going to the location of the trade fair. Half an hour later, he arrived above the Yuquan market. Tisk, the scale of this market is not small. Looking at the prosperous and huge market below, Wei Hong couldn't help but praise it lightly. He didn't look closely, and landed directly in front of the market gate. At this time, he only showed the cultivation of the late stage of foundation building. He ignored the 2 guards beside the market gate, but walked in directly without any obstruction. After entering the market, Wei Hong asked around and headed east. Soon, he arrived at the door of a shop called Kahuju. Kahuju. What a grand name. Wei Hong looked up and walked directly into the shop. Senior, please come in quickly. I wonder if there is anything I can do for you. As soon as he entered the shop, a very discerning servant came up to him. Wei Hong did not look around like other guests, but directly said to the servant, I'm looking for your steward. Ah, so you're here to look for the steward. Please come this way, senior. Please wait a moment. I'll go and call the steward out right away. The young servant did not dare to neglect it when he heard this, and hurried to the back hall to get the steward named He Minghu. After a while, a middle-aged steward with a rather elegant appearance came out from the back hall, and then came to Wei Hong, smiling politely, Dear guest, what do you want to do with me? Wei Hong did not say anything, and directly took out a token and waved it in front of him. Steward He Huo was immediately shocked, and his face immediately became respectful, and he immediately whispered, Senior, please come in, let's talk inside. Led the way. Wei Hong acted like a man of few words. The steward immediately led the way in front and took Wei Hong directly to a reception room. Senior, please sit down for a while, I will ask someone to serve spiritual tea immediately. Steward Hua said respectfully after closing the door. Wei Hong waved his hand and directly ordered, "No need, I am in a hurry to attend the trade fair, please check it for me." After that, he placed the token he got from Yang Yi on the table, and then revealed a trace of golden elixir aura at the right time to prove that he was not lying. Although Wei Hong released and collected it immediately, when Hua felt the golden elixir aura, the respectful look on his face became more intense. He carefully picked up the token and said to Wei Hong respectfully, "Then I'm sorry. Verifying the recommendation token is a necessary step. If Wei Hong wants to participate in the trade fair, he must follow the prescribed procedures." Soon, after a careful inspection, Hua nodded to Wei Hong and said, "There is no problem with the recommendation token. Since you have obtained the recommendation token, you can naturally participate in the trade fair we are holding this time. I wonder if you are going there right away, or do you need to rest for a while?" "Of course I will go there right away," Wei Hong answered without any hesitation. He came here to participate in the trade fair, so why would he need to rest? Hua seemed to have expected this. He immediately smiled and said, "Well, please follow me, senior." Wei Hong was startled and asked with a little doubt, "Are you the guide?" "Yes, it's me." "Well, lead the way." "This way, senior." Hua led Wei Hong to the back hall of Kahuju. After entering a study, he opened a mechanism, and then the wall in front of him revealed an underground entrance and dozens of steps leading down. "Huh? The entrance to the trade fair is underground?" Wei Hong looked surprised, and he was secretly alert in his heart. But the steward Hua seemed to have been used to it. He smiled and responded, "Don't worry, senior, the entrance to the trade fair is indeed below, and you have a high level of cultivation. If I do anything unusual, you can just take me down." After this, Wei Hong naturally didn't say anything more. So he nodded and signaled Hua to go first. A moment later, Wei Hong and the others came to an underground secret room, and then he saw something that surprised him. It was a small teleportation array. Chapter 929 Teleportation Array, Trading Area. Teleportation Array. Wei Hong exclaimed, and then a look of realization appeared on his face. He finally understood why a guide was needed to enter the venue of the Golden Core Trade Fair. Without a guide, he would naturally not be able to find the entrance to the trade fair. Who would have thought that the Golden Core Trade Fair held by the Divine Will sect would use a small teleportation array as the entrance? The location of this trade fair must be extremely secretive, and it is impossible to find this place from the outside world. The manager Hua's eyes flashed with complacency, and then he introduced respectfully, "Yes, senior, only seniors who have been verified or have shown the trade fair token can use this teleportation array. This is also the only way to directly enter the trade fair area." Wei Hong was also quite surprised by the generosity of the Divine Will sect when he heard this, but his face returned to calmness, and he said lightly, "Then I'll trouble you to teleport me once." He had already used his spiritual sense to quietly scan it and found that there was no problem with the teleportation array. Hua immediately responded carefully, "How dare I? This is what the junior should do." "Please, senior." Wei Hong nodded and walked into the formation. Hua immediately took out a token. He first sent a spiritual power to the control hub of the formation. At this time, the entire teleportation formation was lit up with a burst of white light, and then the white light quickly turned into a white light column about 10 feet long, directly covering Wei Hong. Wei Hong observed that the white light column seemed to contain a large number of mysterious runes, and also revealed a hint of indestructible breath, as if the light column could not be destroyed at all. At this time, Hua urged the token to lightly shine at the teleportation formation. The next moment, the white light column about 10 feet long shone brightly, and an extremely strong spatial force emerged. Wei Hong's figure was shrouded in the light and disappeared. A certain underground space hundreds of miles away from the Shenyi sect. Wei Hong's figure flashed, and he suddenly appeared in another teleportation formation. He subconsciously raised his mana to prepare for defense, and at the same time, his spiritual consciousness was immediately released. At this moment, a faint voice suddenly came to his ears, "Dao Ao, don't be nervous, this is the area where the trade fair is held." Hearing this voice, Wei Hong calmed down immediately without finding anything unusual in his consciousness. Then he turned around with a calm face and looked in the direction where the voice came from, and asked calmly, "Oh? This is where the trade fair is held? What's your name, friend?" In front of him, a middle-aged man in a black robe suddenly appeared. This man was not standing, but sitting behind a stone table. Wei Hong also observed at this time that the place where he was seemed to be a high platform. The small teleportation array was in the center of the high platform. The high platform was surrounded by dark stone walls, and mysterious runes appeared faintly on them. In front of him, there was a downward sloping stone staircase, which connected to a passage about 10 feet long. At the end of the passage was a stone door, and the stone door was covered by a layer of silver light curtain, so it was impossible to see the situation behind the door. The stone table in front of the black-robed man was placed right next to the stone door. Seeing Wei Hong so calm, the black-robed man showed an interested look, and then chuckled, "My name is Yuan Qi, fellow Taoist, there is no need to introduce yourself. All the giant and cultivators who come here hide their true identities. It's useless to say anything. As for this place, it is indeed the place where the giant and trade fair is held. Fellow Taoist, just go through this stone door." Wei Hong slowly walked down the stone steps while looking around. Hearing this, he continued to ask, "Oh? Then I can just go in directly." The black-robed man shook his head at this time. "Before entering, fellow Taoist, you need to cooperate with registration and pay the entrance fee." "Register? How to register?" Wei Hong frowned and asked in confusion, "How much is the entrance fee?" Yang Yi didn't mention the entrance fee to him. He didn't know whether he forgot or felt it was unnecessary. The black-robed man glanced at Wei Hong calmly and said bluntly, "For cultivators like you who come to the trade fair for the first time, they usually need to register before entering. You won't have to go through so much trouble in the future. As for the entrance fee, each person needs to pay 100 high-grade spirit stones, and it is only required to pay for the first time to participate in the trade fair. No matter how many times you participate in the future, you don't need to pay it again. You don't need to pay any transaction fees during the trade fair." Wei Hong was silent for a moment after hearing this. He knew very well that his reaction just now would naturally be seen as his first time to participate in the trade fair. There was no need to hide it. Instead, the entrance fee made him feel a little painful. However, when he thought that this was someone else's rule and that he didn't need to pay any transaction fees in the future, he accepted it and said directly, "No problem, this is 100 high-grade spirit stones. How do I register?" After that, he took out 100 high-grade spirit stones and placed them on the stone table. The black-robed man stretched out his hand and flicked it, and the small pile of spirit stones disappeared immediately. Then the black-robed man took out a triangular token and said to Wei Hong, "Dao, please take out the recommendation token." Wei Hong cooperated very well and took out the recommendation token given by Yang Yi. So the black-robed man reached out and grabbed the recommendation token and put it away. Then he pushed the triangular token in his hand to Wei Hong and said, "Dao, please inject a little blood essence into the token. When you come again, just show the token directly." Wei Hong didn't expect it to be so simple. He didn't ask any more questions. He squeezed out a little blood essence from his finger and dripped it onto the token. The triangular token absorbed the blood essence directly. At this time, he felt that he had a weak connection with the token. Seeing this, the black-robed man handed the token to Wei Hong, and then took out a string of masks of different styles and gestured, "Come on, Dao, choose one. This is a mask made of shadow stone. It can conceal your appearance and breath. Of course, if you don't need it, you don't have to wear it. Obviously, this is another way to hide your identity at the trade fair." "Thank you." Wei Hong was naturally not polite and directly picked a monkey mask. After putting on the mask, a layer of light gray light curtain bloomed directly on the mask, covering his body directly, making it impossible to see his face clearly. Wei Hong's heart moved slightly when he saw this. The gray light curtain seemed very mysterious. Even with his spiritual sense, he couldn't penetrate it, and his breath was also covered up. Tisk, the Golden Pill trade fair held by the Divine Will sect is really something. Just based on this mask, the entrance fee of 100 high-grade spiritual stones is not expensive. Wei Hong secretly sighed in his heart. He had learned a lot before the Golden Pill trade fair really started. "Dao, please." Seeing that Wei Hong had put on the mask, the man in black robe smiled and stretched out his hand to signal. Wei Hong nodded slightly, raised his foot and passed through the layer of silver light curtain in front of the stone gate. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 930, Charming Skills, Throwing Out a Brick to Attract Jade. Buzz. The silver light curtain rippled slightly like water, and Wei Hong passed through it without any hindrance. After entering the stone gate, he came to a black passage about 5 or 6 feet long. It seemed that there were many restrictions here, and coupled with the effect of the mask, it greatly restricted the spiritual consciousness, and Wei Hong was too lazy to use his spiritual consciousness to explore anything. He quickly walked through the passage and passed through another stone gate. At this time, his eyes suddenly lit up and found that he had come to a rather spacious hall. The whole hall was brightly lit, and in front of Wei Hong stood 2 rows of beautiful young maids. In addition to the 2 rows of maids, there was another beautiful mature woman who seemed to be mature. This person had a graceful figure and a plump body. Her black hair was lightly tied up, her skin was as white as snow, and there was a faint blush between her eyebrows and eyes. Her every move showed her mature charm. Seeing Wei Hong appear, the mature woman immediately came up to him with a smile. Junior Yunzai greets Senior, welcome to participate in the trade fair. Wei Hong frowned slightly when he heard this, because he felt a breath of charm. Although it had no effect on him, he did not like this person's behavior of using charm as soon as they met, so he asked coldly, has the trade fair started? When the mature woman Yunzai saw Wei Hong's appearance, she didn't know that she was disliked by the giant and cultivator in front of her, so she immediately put away her charm, and then answered very obediently, to reply to Senior, the trade fair will officially start in an hour. Would you like to go directly to the trade venue or take a rest first? Let's go directly to the trade venue. Wei Hong naturally didn't need to rest, so he ordered bluntly. Yunzai immediately responded, okay, then please come this way, Senior. Siwen, you will be responsible for receiving this, Senior. Yes, steward. The young maid on the left immediately bowed and responded, and then gestured to Wei Hong with great respect, Senior, please come this way, I am Siwen. If I have offended you in any way, I hope you can forgive me. After that, the beautiful maid immediately came to Wei Hong and showed him the direction. Wei Hong just nodded slightly, and walked to the right side of the hall under the guidance of the maid. After passing through an archway, they came to a wider space. This space is at least hundreds of feet wide, just like a huge square. There is a layer of golden light curtain around it that completely covers the square, and it exudes a terrifying atmosphere. In this square, there are hundreds of stone platforms about 3 feet high and 5 feet wide. These stone platforms are distributed in a circle around the square, and behind each stone platform is a wooden chair. In addition, in the center of the square is a huge stone platform more than 2 meters long. At this time, at least hundreds of people have been seated in hundreds of seats in this square. All of these monks, like Wei Hong, wear masks of different styles on their faces. Everyone's breath and appearance are completely covered up and cannot be detected at all. Beside or behind these monks, each is accompanied by a maid. At this time, Wei Hong looked around and saw that among the hundreds of giant monks who were seated, some closed their eyes to rest, some looked around, and some ate and drank, not caring about how others looked at them. After Wei Hong came in, he also attracted the attention of some monks, but everyone didn't know each other's identity, and after each glance, they didn't look at them anymore. At this time, the maid said respectfully, Senior, where do you want to sit? Wei Hong glanced around and said lightly, just over there. After that, he raised his foot and walked to an empty seat on the left. After randomly choosing a seat, he sat down on the wooden chair. Senior, do you need some spiritual tea or spiritual fruit? The maid stood behind Wei Hong and bowed to ask. Wei Hong shook his head and said, no need, call me when the trade fair starts. After that, he closed his eyes and rested. Anyway, his spiritual sense was no longer of much use here, and everyone's appearance was covered up, so there was nothing to see, so he naturally wouldn't waste time. The maid didn't dare to say anything more and stood behind him honestly. Just as Wei Hong closed his eyes and rested, many giant monks appeared in the square one after another. An hour later, ling. Only a crisp but not harsh bell sounded, and the whole square suddenly became quiet. Wei Hong didn't need the maid to remind him at all, he opened his eyes immediately after hearing the sound. He subconsciously looked around and found that most of the hundreds of seats were already occupied. I didn't expect that there would be so many giant and monks attending the trade fair this time. Wei Hong sighed in his heart. Before he came, he had never thought that there would be as many as 300 or 400 giant and cultivators participating in the trade fair. At this time, a figure suddenly appeared behind the huge stone platform in the center of the square. This man was also wearing a mask, his appearance and aura were also covered up, only he was heard saying in a loud voice, "Fellow Daoists, welcome to this trade fair. Now that everyone who should come has arrived, we will not wait any longer, the trade fair is about to begin. There should be many new Daoists at this trade fair, so before the trade fair begins, let me introduce the rules of the trade fair." At this point, the man wearing a ghost face mask pointed to the stone platform in front of him, and then said, "You should all have seen this stone platform in front of me. After the trade fair begins, 3 Daoists can go on stage at the same time. Each Daoist can display up to 3 items and explain the trading conditions of each item. If any Daoist takes a fancy to an item on the stage, he can come up and trade directly. Whether he can succeed is decided by the owner of the item, and we, the organizers, will never interfere. Each Daoist has a quarter of an hour to display and trade. When the time is up, regardless of whether it is successful or not, he must step down and let the other 3 Daoists come up. In addition, after all the Taoist friends have come on stage, we will set aside an hour of free trading time, and you Taoist friends can trade privately. That's the rule. Now I declare that the trade fair officially begins." Ling. Another crisp bell rang, and the trade fair officially began. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. After hearing the bell ring, some impatient monks immediately rushed out. In the blink of an eye, 3 figures appeared on the huge stone platform. The 3 figures were one fat, one with high heels, and one thin. The monks who were a step slower saw this and looked regretful, so they could only retreat again. At this time, the fat man on the far left bowed and smiled to the people around him with a little complacency. "Haha, fellow Taoists, let me start by throwing out some ideas." Chapter 931,000 Thunder's Breaking Shape Talisman. Instantly, all the monks at the trade fair turned their attention to the fat monk. He took out 3 items from his storage bag and placed them on the stone platform in front of him. The sharp-eyed monks had already discovered that the 3 items were a palm-sized blood-red iron block, a thumb-sized black date, and a white gelatinous object. The obese man first picked up the blood-red iron block, and introduced it with a grin. "Fellow Daoists, this is blood yang iron, which is made from red sun iron, and is refined by the fusion of the souls of 2 cultivators who are above the golden core stage and practice fire-attributed exercises. It is also an excellent material for refining yin fire-attributed magic weapons. This thing can be exchanged for a crouching tiger shark demon pill. This is yin jujube, which is accidentally found in the grave of a person born on a yin year, yin month, and yin day. It takes 100 years to bear fruit, and then it is refined for 49 days with the resentment of wronged souls using secret techniques. This jujube can be taken directly, or used as a material for alchemy. This thing can be exchanged for a land spirit flower that is more than 200 years old. The last one is jade rubber, which is produced once 100 years by the jade oak, a spiritual wood of heaven and earth. It is an excellent material for making strange magic weapons and mechanical puppets. This thing can be exchanged for a spiritual tendon of a 3rd-level medium-grade monster. If there is really nothing I need in the end, and other Daoists are interested in these 3 treasures, then I will trade with spirit stones." After the introduction, the cultivator looked around with a bit of pride, as if he was very confident about his trading items. He also wanted to be the first to trade, so he took the lead. Sure enough, after hearing the origin and purpose of the 3 materials, many giant and cultivators present showed a hint of interest in their identities, and many of them whispered to each other. At this time, the tall cultivator in the middle also took out 3 items and placed them on the stone platform, and then introduced directly, "I also have 3 treasures in my hand. The first is a 300-year-old 3rd-grade medium-grade spiritual herb Ningglinkeo. This item can be exchanged for a bottle of elixir that can improve your cultivation. The second is the horn of the 3rd-grade low-grade monster one-horned thunder leopard. This horn has the effect of absorbing and attracting lightning, and it is also the material for refining lightning-attributed magic weapons. Exchange it for a piece of earth-attributed material of the same grade. The third is a soul defense secret technique. The grade of this secret technique is unknown and it is slightly incomplete, but the effect is very good. Fellow Daoists who are interested can come up and take a look." This item can be exchanged for 3 third-grade low-grade earth-attributed magic weapon materials. When the cultivator introduced the last thing, hundreds of giant and cultivators on the scene instantly cast their eyes on the jade slip, and their eyes became extremely hot. Some even stood up and wanted to go forward to take a look. Soul defense secret art? Really? Haha, I didn't expect such a good thing to appear at this trade fair. That's right, this trade fair is really worth it. Dao, I want this secret art, can I trade it with spirit stones? Dao, I have earth attribute magic weapon materials here, can I take a look first? Hearing that such a rare thing as the soul defense secret art has appeared, the giant and cultivators present could no longer hold back, and they all rushed to speak up, wanting to get that secret art directly. You know, the soul is definitely one of the most important foundations for every cultivator. Once the soul is damaged, at the least, the cultivation will stagnate and never make any progress, and at the worst, it will affect the mind and even become dementia. Therefore, no cultivator would want his soul to be damaged, but the secret art or magic weapon that can defend the soul is extremely rare. Now it appears at this trade fair, naturally attracting most giant and cultivators to scramble for it. Even if they heard that this is an incomplete secret art, many cultivators still flock to it. Even Wei Hong was excited. He didn't expect such a good thing to appear right at the beginning. I really came to the right place at this trade fair. Even if this secret technique is slightly incomplete, it is worth getting as long as it has a little effect. He has decided in his heart that he must try his best to get the secret technique, no matter how much it costs. As for the earth attribute magic weapon materials, although he doesn't have them, it doesn't mean that the cultivators present here don't have them. As long as others have them, he can trade them in exchange. At this time, facing the noise of the entire trade fair, the man who presided over the trade fair immediately snorted coldly, "Be quiet, if you make any more noise, the transaction will be cancelled." As he spoke, a strong pressure and aura spread directly to the entire venue. After feeling the terrible aura of the peak of the golden elixir, those cultivators who were a little impatient suddenly felt like a basin of cold water was poured over their heads, and they calmed down directly, not daring to continue to make noise. Seeing that the venue had become quiet, the man at the peak of the giant realm said coldly, "This is the first and last time. If you disrupt the order of the trading venue again, your trading qualification will be immediately revoked." As soon as these words came out, everyone present changed color slightly, but they didn't dare to say anything for fear of angering the giant and peak cultivator who presided over the transaction. Seeing that the venue had quieted down again, the last short and thin cultivator among the three smiled sinisterly and said, I also have 3 treasures in my hand. Fellow Taoists, please come and appreciate them. The first item is a set of hides of the 3rd-grade medium-quality monster rock armor rhinoceros. This hide can be used to refine defensive inner armor or shields. This item can be exchanged for a 500-year-old yin-ning grass. Fellow Taoists who are interested can come up and take a look. The second item is 5 3rd-grade inferior Thousand Thunder shape-breaking talismans, in exchange for 2 bottles of 3rd-grade inferior Shineling pills. The last item is an egg of the 2nd-grade top-quality monster Black-winged eagle. This monster has the strength of the peak of foundation building when it reaches adulthood, and it is a flying monster with extremely fast speed. Whether it is used as a flying spirit pet or a combat spirit pet, it is an excellent choice. This monster egg can be exchanged for a 3rd-grade medium-quality monster pill, of any type. When the Black-winged eagle monster egg was taken out, it once again aroused the interest of many cultivators. You know, in the world of immortal cultivation, spiritual pets are extremely rare, especially flying spiritual pets, which are extremely difficult to obtain and have always been valuable. Although this is just a beast egg of a 2nd-level top-grade monster, its price may be higher than the materials of many 3rd-level low-grade monsters. Just as the short and thin monk said, as long as the Black-winged eagle is cultivated, it can be used as a very spiritual pet and an additional combat helper, which is very useful. For a while, this giant and trade fair had just begun, and the atmosphere of the entire venue immediately became hot. Many giant and monks couldn't wait to start trading. Even if those monks didn't have the materials required by the other party, they still couldn't help but want to go up and see it. Fortunately, the giant and peak monk who hosted the trade fair had just established his prestige, otherwise it might cause many monks to scramble for it. At this time, the giant and peak monk rang the bell again. For a while, many monks who had been waiting for a long time flew towards the huge stone platform. Chapter 932 The Secret Blessing of Liujia. Whoosh! A monk of medium build wearing a tiger mask was the fastest. He arrived in front of the stone platform in the blink of an eye. He grabbed the jade slip that recorded the soul defense secret technique and couldn't wait to check it without even looking at anything else. Several monks behind him were a step slower and had to wait. 4 or 5 monks also came forward to check the black-winged eagle's egg at the same time. It seemed that many people were interested. After a while, the monk wearing a tiger mask opened his eyes and put down the jade slip in his hand. However, his face didn't look good at this time. He asked the monk in front of him in a deep voice, "Only 1/9 of the content of a secret technique. Is this what Dao said is slightly incomplete? Dao, do you think we are fools?" Hearing that such a soul defense secret technique only had 1/9 of the original content, many monks who were originally interested immediately stopped and looked at the jade slip with a dull look, and were secretly annoyed by the man's words. It is clear that most of the contents are missing, but they say that it is only slightly incomplete. This is really misleading and infuriating. However, in the face of such questioning, the tall monk replied calmly, "No matter how much content is missing, at least the remaining part can be practiced. What difference does it make if it is incomplete? If you don't want to buy it, don't waste your time." The monk wearing a tiger mask was immediately furious, snorted coldly and threw down the jade slip. Seeing this, the monks waiting behind also looked at it hesitantly. But the faces of those people also became not very good, and they were not even interested in bargaining. After putting down the jade slip, they turned around and left, seeming to be extremely disappointed. Seeing this, the other monks were naturally too lazy to go up and waste time. They all thought they had encountered a good thing, but who would have thought that it was a half-incomplete garbage? Even if it can really be practiced, it is hard to say whether it has any effect on soul defense. For a time, this soul defense secret technique fell directly from the spotlight to the mire. On the contrary, the black-winged eagle monster egg next to it was greatly welcomed and snatched, and many cultivators took out the monster pills that the other party requested. The tall cultivator couldn't help but snorted when he saw this, and his face became pale. At this time, Wei Hong walked up slowly. "Dao, can I take a look?" Wei Hong smiled slightly and asked politely. The tall cultivator nodded lightly and said, "Dao, please." Wei Hong was not polite either. He picked up the jade slip and checked it. After a moment, he opened his eyes, his face full of thinking. He found that this secret technique was indeed mostly incomplete, and it was almost the same as what the cultivator said before. This secret technique is called 6Gia Secret Blessing Technique. The jade slip records the general outline of this secret technique. According to the general outline, this secret technique actually consists of 9 characters, each of which can be practiced separately. After all 9 characters are practiced to perfection, the power will increase dramatically, and it has a very mysterious and strange effect. These 9 characters are exactly from the Taoist 9-character mantra. When facing a soldier, all the soldiers will march forward in formation. In addition to the general outline, this jade slip also contains the cultivation formula for the character, Lin. In other words, although this secret technique is mostly incomplete, it can indeed be cultivated, and according to the general outline, even if only one of the characters is cultivated, it can have a good soul defense effect. This is just some rough content, and more detailed things are naturally impossible to see before the transaction is completed. Wei Hong already had an idea in his mind. After nodding to the cultivator, he put down the jade slip and retreated. He was already thinking about how to trade this 6Gia secret blessing technique. Since the other party asked for the refining materials of 3 earth attribute magic weapons, he had to pay more attention to the next transaction process. Soon, a quarter of an hour passed. Among the 3 cultivators who came on stage, only the tall cultivator in the middle did not gain anything. The other 2 each traded 2 items, and the harvest was pretty good. The time was up, and the 3 of them left the stone platform immediately. Wei Hong secretly noted the position of the tall monk, and prepared to wait until the free trading time to find him to trade. Then, 3 other monks immediately rushed to occupy the trading position. All monks knew that going on stage first would definitely give them more advantages, and their things would be easier to trade, so everyone wanted to be the first. Among the second wave of monks who came on stage, the things the first 2 monks took out were ordinary, but the 2 items that the last person took out made the eyes of many monks present light up. "Everyone, this is 3 taels of silver essence. You should all know the price and function of silver essence, so I won't go into details. This silver essence can only be exchanged for the demon pill or tortoise shell of the 3rd level medium grade demon beastly uli crystal stone turtle. This last one is thunder spirit crystal, which is an excellent material for refining thunder attributed magic weapons. Magic weapons with thunder spirit crystal as the main material will definitely not be lower than the 3rd level medium grade. This item can only be exchanged for 1 pound of ink gold. After saying that, the monk crossed his arms and waited. After hearing the other party's transaction conditions, the giant and monks around them immediately cooled down their enthusiasm. Silver essence is a kind of magic weapon raw material extracted from a large amount of pure silver by giant and stage monks and above using dan fire. It is not only precious, but also quite rare, because not many giant and monks are willing to consume their dan fire on refining materials. Therefore, many monks have their eyes on the silver crystal, but they don't have what the other party needs. At this time, some giant and monks with ideas began to come on stage one after another. They either took out the materials needed by the other party, or wanted to bargain, or even wanted to trade spirit stones. Only the 2 parties know the details of this transaction. The 3 monks either shook their heads and refused, or traded directly. At this time, a monk wearing a python mask came to the stage. He took out a black demon pill, the size of an egg, and pointed at the silver essence. The meaning was very clear. Seeing this, the owner of the silver essence was also happy and hurriedly handed the silver essence to the other party. After the 2 parties verified each other, the transaction was declared complete. A quarter of an hour later, the second wave of monks stepped down again to be replaced. In this way, wave after wave of monks took turns to go on stage to display their trading items. Among them, there were naturally many treasures or materials that made people shine, and many items were snatched up. Of course, there were also many monks who returned disappointed. After all, not everyone can make a successful transaction. This can only be blamed on the fact that the things they brought out were too ordinary, or the trading conditions they offered were too high. Wei Hong was not in a hurry to rush to the stage, but watched with relish. He found that he had indeed gained a lot of knowledge from participating in this trade fair this time. Chapter 933 Defensive Shield Magic Weapon. The trade fair was in full swing, and the atmosphere was very warm. Suddenly, a monk who seemed to be a little thin flew up to the stone platform. He took out a black jade slip from his storage bag and placed it on the stone platform with a snap. Everyone, this is an explosive desperate secret technique. The gray-robed monk's voice was low and powerful, echoing over the square. After successful cultivation, you can burst out several times the strength at a critical moment, but it will also cause great damage to yourself. You need to rest for a long time before you can recover your strength. Interested Taoist friends can come up and take a look. This item can only be exchanged for 2 kinds of gold attributed magic weapon materials, preferably black iron motherstone. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience instantly quieted down, followed by a slight discussion among each other. After all, the desperate secret technique is relatively rare, and it is a trump card that can turn the tide at the critical moment of life and death. Even if the price is huge, it still has a fatal attraction for many giant and monks. These giant and monks can still tell which is more serious, being injured or falling. The value of the black iron motherstone, a kind of gold attributed magic weapon material, is not low either. Whether it is worthwhile to exchange 2 materials for a secret technique depends on the ideas of these cultivators. After all, the needs of each cultivator are different. Wei Hong's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. What he lacked was this explosive and desperate secret technique. If he could get it, he would have a powerful trump card in the future path of cultivation and life and death crisis. He had the vitality point in his hand, and the least fear was physical injury. Thinking of this, his eyes suddenly became sharp. There were many cultivators with the same idea, but they felt that it was not worthwhile to exchange 2 gold-attributed magic weapon materials for a secret technique with serious sequelae. Some of those who wanted to exchange did not have the materials needed by the other party. As a result, this secret technique could not be traded immediately. Some cultivators tried to bargain on the stage with a fluke mentality, or wanted to buy it with spirit stones, but were rejected by the thin cultivator. In the end, the secret technique was not successfully traded. Wei Hong's heart moved, and he took note of the cultivator's seat again. The trade fair was already halfway through, with more than 100 monks coming on stage. Many rare materials and secret techniques continued to appear, and the atmosphere at the trade fair became increasingly heated. Seeing that most of the monks had already come on stage, Wei Hong didn't want to wait any longer. When he saw 3 monks leaving the stone platform, he immediately flew over and just grabbed a spot. After the first 2 monks finished their introductions, he took out 3 items from his storage bag and placed them on the stone platform. He looked around, picked up the first item and introduced it. Fellow Taoists, this is the demon peel of the 3rd level low-grade demon beast, the 2-headed green knight python, in exchange for an earth-attributed magic weapon material. Then he picked up the second item, which was a piece of ore the size of a sea bowl. He said lightly, a piece of black crystal ore weighing 32 pounds and 7 ounces, only in exchange for earth-attributed magic weapon materials or gold-attributed magic weapon materials. The black crystals he dug out were all raw ores, and had not been refined. This piece of black crystal ore was just a starting point, to see if he could get the materials he wanted. That's right, Wei Hong was planning to trade enough magic weapon materials with black crystal ore, and then trade the 6G secret blessing technique, and the explosive and discreet secret technique. Who told him that he didn't have the materials the other party needed, so he had to do this? And he didn't have too many valuable things, so he only took out 2 items. However, the appearance of black crystal ore still attracted the attention of many cultivators. After all, the characteristics of black crystal stone are really strange and extremely rare. It is an excellent material for refining defensive magic weapons. As long as some black crystal stone is added to it, the defensive effect of the magic weapon can be greatly improved. Therefore, several interested cultivators flew up immediately. Dao, can I identify it first? One of them asked. Wei Hong nodded slightly. Of course, please. The man was not polite, picked up the black crystal ore and carefully identified it. After a moment, he nodded, put down the ore and asked, Dao, I have a piece of 3rd grade inferior golden flame stone here. Dao, are you satisfied? After that, he took out a fist-sized piece of ore. The surface of the ore was light golden, and it seemed to emit a high temperature. After Wei Hong took it and examined it, he nodded and said, okay, then this piece of black crystal ore belongs to Dao. Haha, good, Dao is really straightforward. The cultivator smiled happily, put away the black crystal ore and returned to his seat. The other people saw that their transaction was successful, and they were a step slower and could only prepare to leave with disappointment. Wei Hong's heart moved, but he was not in a hurry to sell more black crystals. Instead, another monk wearing a ghost mask came forward, first picked up the demon peel of the 2-headed green knight python and examined it, then said, Dao, I have a piece of ginger crystal here, can you see if it meets your requirements? Oh? Ginger crystal. Wei Hong's face changed slightly, and he immediately took the crystal stone to examine it. After a moment, he nodded and said, okay, then this demon peel belongs to Dao. Deal. The ghost-faced monk was also very straightforward, picked up the demon peel and turned to leave. Wei Hong traded both items and naturally left the stone platform. He had already memorized the seats of the people just now, and was ready to visit them one by one during the free trading time later. The other 2 monks had also completed the transaction, and soon another 3 people came on stage. After a few rounds, a tall man wearing a demon mask suddenly flew onto the stage. He took out a jade slip that emitted a soft white light, and then introduced it in a hoarse voice. This jade slip in my hand records a method for refining a defensive shield magic weapon, and this is a growable shield magic weapon. As long as various rare secret ores or rare materials are continuously integrated in the future, the grade and defense of the shield magic weapon can be improved. My trading conditions are very simple, 2 3rd-level low-grade magic weapons, with no attribute restrictions, or 3 3rd-level medium-grade magic weapon materials. After saying that, this person closed his eyes and waited quietly, seemingly not worried about not being able to trade, and did not care about the other 2 monks next to him. The appearance of such a refining method instantly pushed the atmosphere of the entire trading venue to its peak. What? A growable shield magic weapon? No way? Such a good thing actually appeared. Why didn't he keep such a good thing for himself, but put it for trading? People must have kept one for themselves, but the trading conditions are too high. They actually asked for 2 magic weapons. Are they crazy? Hundreds of monks in the entire trading venue couldn't help but talk about it. No one expected that such a good thing would appear. Chapter 934 Rubbing Version. The atmosphere at the scene became extremely heated. Even the giant and peak cultivator who presided over the transaction could not help but show a trace of surprise when he saw such a good thing. You know, a growth-type defensive magic weapon is definitely something that every cultivator wants to have. For all cultivators, it is no different from a treasure they have always dreamed of. However, the transaction conditions given by the cultivator wearing the evil ghost mask were so high that many cultivators who wanted to exchange hesitated. Apart from anything else, most cultivators could not afford 2/3 level inferior magic weapons. Originally, many giant cultivators came to this trade fair to exchange materials and refine their own magic weapons. Even some cultivators who have broken through to the giant stage for dozens or hundreds of years only have 1 or 2 magic weapons, and they are all refined by themselves with all their wealth and cultivated for a long time. How could they trade them for a refining method? If this is a defensive magic weapon that has been refined and has not yet recognized its owner, perhaps some people can grit their teeth and accept it. However, this is just a refining method. Even if you trade it, you still need to collect a lot of materials to refine it, and there is also the risk of refining failure. At first glance, the cost is too high. For a while, most giant monks, even if their eyes were extremely hot, did not dare to rashly go on stage to trade, or simply could not afford the price. However, there were hundreds of giant monks on the scene, and there were still many people with a lot of wealth. I saw 2 monks flying to the stone platform at the same time, one on the left and one on the right, and then went straight to the monk with the evil ghost mask. The 2 monks, one on the left and one on the right, each wore a dragon mask and a goat mask. At this time, the monk on the left with a dragon mask reached out from the storage bag and took out 2 flying swords of different colors, and said lightly, "These are 2/3 level low-grade flying sword magic weapons. Do you want to exchange them?" He, Taoist friend, don't worry. The monk on the right with a goat mask immediately stopped him and said, "Although I don't have any magic weapons, I happen to have 3/3 level medium-grade magic weapon materials. Taoist friend, why don't you take a look first?" After saying that, this person took out 3 items. The 3 items were a fist-sized blue crystal stone, a small section of green bamboo, and a foot-long red feather, all of which looked quite extraordinary. The man with the evil ghost mask looked moved, but he really didn't make a decision immediately. Instead, he checked all the things the 2 people took out, and then his expression became thoughtful. At this time, the man with the dragon mask also picked up the jade slit and checked it, but no one could see his expression clearly, and then he handed the jade slip to the other person. The 2 men quickly checked the jade slip and didn't say much. At this time, the man with the evil ghost mask had obviously made a decision. He said to the monk with the goat mask, "My fellow Taoist, I'm sorry." The monk with the goat mask was also very straightforward after hearing this. He put away the 3 materials and turned away. The monk with the dragon mask smiled proudly and said, "Yes, fellow Taoist really has a good eye." The 2 completed the transaction, and the growing defensive magic weapon refining method fell into the hands of others. Wei Hong saw the scene with his own eyes, but he was not disappointed at all. It's just a copy of the content. If it can be sold once, it can be sold twice. There is no need to take the initiative in this matter. Wei Hong knew very well that the monk with the evil ghost mask must still have the copy of the refining method in his hand. At that time, he only needed to offer a price again, and the other party should agree to the transaction. Moreover, directly taking out 2 magic weapons for trading in public would definitely attract everyone's attention and covetousness. Maybe some cultivators have already set their sights on that person, and he doesn't want to be in the spotlight. It's better to be as low-key as possible. Being able to achieve the goal is the most important thing. Wei Hong had already memorized the locations of several giant cultivators and was ready to find them to trade immediately when the free trading time began. He also accumulated a lot of black crystal stones in his hands, so it shouldn't be a problem to trade several materials. The trading process continued, and the remaining cultivators also took the stage one by one to display their trading items. After more than an hour, the hundreds of giant cultivators present finally took the stage to display them. Ling. When the last 3 cultivators walked off the stage, a crisp bell sounded again, stirring the entire square. The cultivator at the peak of the giant came to the front of the stone platform and said loudly, "Next is the free trading time. Fellow Taoists can choose their own trading partners. The time limit is 2 hours. Start now." As soon as these words came out, the whole square became chaotic with a buzzing sound. Many monks had their eyes on many treasures that they wanted to trade, but they didn't have what the other party needed, or they thought it was not worth it, so they didn't make a move. Now they are eager to bargain. Wei Hong's goal is also very clear. He immediately came to the monk wearing the evil ghost mask, clasped his hands, and then used his spiritual consciousness to transmit the voice, "My fellow Taoist, I wonder if you can make a deal with me." "Oh? What do you mean?" the monk with the evil ghost mask asked in surprise. Wei Hong continued to transmit the voice with his spiritual consciousness. "To be honest, I also want the method of refining the defensive magic weapon. Can you give it up?" He went straight to the point and didn't want to say any more nonsense. Sure enough, the monk wearing the evil ghost mask did not refuse directly after hearing this. Instead, he looked at Wei Hong deeply, and then sent a voice transmission back. "Dao seems to be very sure that I still have the rubbing version of the refining method. Dao, let's not beat around the bush. There is no need to say more nonsense. You have already traded once. Trading one more time will only make more money." Wei Hong was very straightforward and immediately offered, "I have a third-level low-grade water-attributed flying sword magic weapon here. In addition, I will add 2 more pieces of black crystal stone ore weighing no less than 30 kilograms. Dao, please consider it. Whether it is a deal or not is just a word." Wei Hong was too lazy to argue with him, and directly gave the bottom price. The monk was not a fool, so he naturally heard what Wei Hong meant, and as he said, the refining method had been traded once, and trading it one more time would be a waste of money, so there was no reason not to agree. So the cultivator only thought about it for 3 breaths, then nodded and said, "Okay, since you are so straightforward, I won't waste any more words. Deal." After that, he took out another jade slit and handed it to Wei Hong. Wei Hong was overjoyed when he saw this. He first took out a storage bag that he had prepared and handed it over at the same time. Then he took the jade slip and immediately checked it. After roughly flipping through it and finding that there was no problem, he nodded with satisfaction. The other party had also checked the items in the storage bag and was also very satisfied. The transaction was concluded, and Wei Hong turned around and left very straightforwardly. Next, he found several other cultivators one by one and traded the materials they had in their hands with the original black crystal stone ore. Chapter 935 The 3 Great Golden Core Tribulation Cultivators. 2 hours later. As the trade fair gradually came to an end, hundreds of giant and monks began to disperse in an orderly manner. Wei Hong followed the organizers' instructions and came to the location of a teleportation array. The huge teleportation array was engraved with mysterious runes, which flashed with a faint blue light. The surrounding area was filled with rich spiritual power fluctuations. More than a dozen monks wearing uniform clothes and masks were maintaining order on the side to ensure that every monk using the teleportation array could leave safely and smoothly. There were hundreds of monks using this teleportation array, which means that there were at least 4 such teleportation arrays. Wei Hong took a deep breath and slowly stepped into the teleportation array. In an instant, he felt a powerful force wrapping around him, and the scene in front of him was spinning rapidly, and he felt dizzy. When he stepped on the ground again, he was already in a quiet mountain forest. The ancient trees around him were towering, and the sun shone through the dense branches and leaves, forming golden light beams. Occasionally, a few unknown beast calls came, which made the mountain forest more quiet and profound. As soon as Wei Hong stood firm, he began to identify the direction and prepared to embark on the journey home. He was the only one in the forest now, and the teleportation array was obviously a random teleportation. This is convenient, and it's even safer. No one can guarantee where they will be teleported to. Wei Hong understood it in his heart, and while keeping alert, he immediately flew up on his sword and wanted to return to the fairy city. However, at this moment, 3 black shadows quickly surrounded him from 3 different directions like ghosts. Wei Hong was suddenly shocked, and his many years of experience in cultivating immortals made him alert instantly. He immediately used his magic power, and a layer of light green light appeared around his body, so that he could be ready to deal with possible dangers at any time, and at the same time he was ready to meet the enemy. The 3 people who surrounded him in front were obviously enemies, not friends. How could he not understand that he had encountered robbery cultivators? Wei Hong didn't want to break through the encirclement immediately, but the other party came too fast, so he was directly in the encirclement of the other party. It was not so easy to leave at this time. When the 3 black shadows approached, he could see the appearance of the 3 giant and robbery cultivators clearly. The leader of the robber cultivators in front of him was tall and burly, with a strong aura all over his body. At a glance, it can be seen that he has the cultivation level of the third level of the golden core, and he exudes a strong evil aura and a gloomy aura. Although the other two robber cultivators are only at the first level of the golden core, they are also filled with a strong evil aura, which makes people shudder. At first glance, they are people who practice evil skills. Dao, if you know what's good for you, hand over the treasures on your body obediently, otherwise, today will be your death. The leader of the robber cultivators, at the third level of the golden core, immediately spoke after approaching. His voice was low and hoarse, with an unquestionable domineering, as if he had already eaten Wei Hong. This person was playing with a black flying knife in his hand. The flying knife flashed with a strange black light, as if telling the countless blood it had been stained with, and it also exuded a hint of coldness. Wei Hong frowned secretly. He knew that he had encountered a robber cultivator who was robbing his own robbers. These robber cultivators obviously knew the process of the trade fair and the route of the giant cultivator's departure very well, and they set up an ambush here on purpose. It is unknown whether it was leaked by the Divine Will sect or discovered by these robber cultivators. But now is not the time to consider these things. Now is the time to consider how to repel the other party. Wei Hong is not a person who will give in easily. Moreover, he has experienced countless hardships and obstacles since he embarked on the road of cultivation. How could he give up the treasure he worked so hard to get? If you want my treasure, then come and get it with your ability. Wei Hong responded coldly, revealing firmness and determination in his eyes. Although he was surrounded at this time, he was still not panicked at all. With his strength, since he was defeated, he should be able to escape. He had strong confidence in this, so he was not panicked at all. Seeing that Wei Hong refused to give in, the three robber cultivators couldn't help but smile at each other, with greed flashing in their eyes and a bloodthirsty grin on their faces. Since you are so ignorant, don't blame us three brothers for being rude. The leading robber cultivator took the lead. With a flick of his wrist, the black flying knife wrapped with powerful mana whizzed towards Wei Hong like a black lightning. At the same time, the other two robber cultivators of the first level of Jinden also quickly surrounded him from both sides. One of them controlled a flying sword with a cold light, and the other danced with an iron chain. The iron chain whistled in the air like a nimble poisonous snake, trying to trap Wei Hong directly. In an instant, the offensive of the three robber cultivators came together. Wei Hong knew that the cultivation level of the leading robber cultivator was 2 levels higher than his own, and it was not a wise move to fight head-on. He flashed and shuttled through the forest like a wisp of green smoke, cleverly avoiding the attacks of the three people. At the same time, he was also covered with a layer of mana shield and sword shield, which could be said to be fully protected. For a moment, flying knives, flying swords and iron chains crisscrossed the forest, and the magic power was overflowing. The surrounding trees shook violently under the powerful magic power fluctuations, and the leaves fell rustlingly, as if it was raining leaves. The sunlight was also covered by the light of the battle, and the originally bright forest became dim. Wei Hong did not directly fight back, but chose to maneuver flexibly. He found that the leader of the 3-level giant and robber cultivator seemed to be full of evil spirits, and his aura was also extremely gloomy, but it gave him a sense of emptiness and unreality, and his magic power seemed very empty. And the black flying knife seemed to be full of momentum, but it was not as scary as imagined. It's really an evil cultivator. This strength is not hard-earned, right? Wei Hong guessed secretly in his heart, while also observing the attack routines of the 3 robber cultivators. The blue flying sword has been traded out, and now he only has a red flying sword magic weapon in his hand. He directly summoned the red flying sword, which was entangled with a black flying knife, making it unable to threaten him. At the same time, he activated a talisman to restrain the flying sword used by another robber cultivator. As for the chain used by the last robber cultivator, it was impossible for him to be trapped by the other party with his speed. He was fighting 1 against 3, but he was not at a disadvantage. This situation immediately made the leading robber cultivator furious. He shouted, "Sure Yin Shak Law, break it for me." This person suddenly urged the mana in his body, and pinched his hands. Soon, a terrifying claw about 10 feet long condensed above Wei Hong's head. Moreover, this claw exuded a strong yin shak aura, which seemed to have a soul-stirring effect. The next moment, this terrifying claw grabbed Wei Hong head-on. The evil cultivator who was controlling the chains was shocked when he saw this, and immediately used his magic power to make the chains wrap around Wei Hong like a giant python. At the same time, he spat out a long evil hair from his mouth and shot it towards Wei Hong. For a moment, Wei Hong was once again under a more fierce siege. Chapter 936 Black Flying Knife. HMPH, just in time. Wei Hong smiled coldly, not panicking at all in the face of the siege. He first threw a blackwood explosive thorn talisman directly at the first-level giant and cultivator on the right, then dodged the chain magic weapon with his right hand, and a sword appeared from the tip of his palm. Swish! After the sword light took shape, it immediately chopped up the giant claw that grabbed down fiercely. Bang! The sword light and the giant claw collided fiercely, making a dull sound. The fluctuation of mana swept across, stirring up waves of falling leaves. The Shiyinsha claw and the King Guang sword light shattered each other in the collision, and neither of them could gain the upper hand. This scene made the leading robbery cultivator stunned. He could never have imagined that his Shiyinsha claw, which he used with his third-level giant in cultivation, could fight against the magic of a first-level giant in cultivator. This was a great shame for him. But before the leading GXIU could make any move, Wei Hong rushed towards the GXIU who was driving the flying sword. The three opponents were besieging him, so he naturally had to find a way to break the siege first, and then defeat them one by one, so as not to be restricted everywhere. The GXIU who was driving the flying sword saw Wei Hong rushing towards him, and instinctively felt a little panic. A layer of magic shield immediately appeared outside his body, and at the same time, he pinched his hands to cast some magic to block Wei Hong. But Wei Hong opened his mouth and spit out the one-hand banner that was originally nurtured in his danshin. He was seen shouting suddenly, injecting magic power into the one-hand banner and fiercely raising the banner. In an instant, the 10,000 souls banner trembled violently, and the yin qi on the banner surface surged. Dozens of ghosts roared out of it and rushed towards the giant and level 1 cultivator like black lightning. The robbery cultivator's face suddenly changed when he saw this scene, and a strong panic surged in his heart. He frantically operated his magic power and cast a yin sha spell, trying to resist the attacks of these ghosts, while also retreating frantically. However, the yin sha spell did not have much effect on those ghosts, let alone stop them from approaching. Moreover, those ghosts that were more terrifying than the peak of the foundation building period were all extremely fierce. They kept circling and biting around the giant and level 1 cultivator, making him lose sight of one thing and lose another. He had no time to attack Wei Hong and could only take care of himself. Seeing this, Wei Hong was too lazy to pay attention to the cultivator anymore. This person could no longer pose any threat to him. Then he set his sights on the cultivator who controlled the chain, intending to kill him first. But the leading cultivator was extremely furious at this time. He suddenly shouted, "How dare you? Do you really think that the three of us brothers are afraid of you?" He first recalled the black flying knife, then bit his tongue and spurted out a large mouthful of blood, which turned into a blood arrow and sank into the black flying knife. The next moment, the black flying knife swelled up in the wind and turned into a giant flying knife more than 3 feet long. There was a layer of blood-colored evil spirit on the blade, which looked very scary. Cut. The third-level giant and cultivator pointed at Wei Hong and shouted coldly. Buzz! The air seemed to stagnate, and the giant flying knife fell fiercely towards Wei Hong. Wei Hong's body tightened, and he realized that he had been firmly locked by the other party. In this case, he simply stopped dodging. Swish, swish, swish! Exclamation mark. More than 10 self-destructing talismans were thrown out directly. Then, another talisman was directly activated and rushed towards the giant flying knife. That's not all. Wei Hong also injected his magic power into the red flying sword crazily, turning it into a 3-zang-long sword, and slashed it again. Boom! The dozen or so self-destructing talismans exploded first, but the violent explosion only slowed down the momentum of the giant flying knife. The blood-colored evil spirit attached to the blade was dispersed by the flames, and its momentum dropped a little. Then, the flying knife talisman followed closely and slashed wildly. Bang! The two flying knives collided fiercely, and the flying knife talisman was instantly chopped into pieces, turning into a talisman and flying back to Wei Hong's hand. The giant flying knife was also greatly affected. Not only was the blood-colored evil spirit attached to the blade completely dispersed, but the momentum of the giant flying knife was also weakened by half. The next moment, the more than 3-zang-long red flying sword slashed wildly. Clang. The two magic weapons collided fiercely, and a shocking sound was heard instantly. The terrifying loud noise almost broke the eardrums. The two magic weapons were all ejected under the crazy collision. Then they each wailed and returned to their normal size. The spirituality of the two magic weapons was obviously damaged and needed to be nurtured for some time to recover. The leading giant and level 3 cultivator and Wei Hong were both shocked and their faces turned slightly pale. They each consumed a lot of mana, but they still fought evenly. This was all thanks to Wei Hong's strong foundation of Xiandao Jianden. If it was an ordinary giant and level 1 cultivator, he might have been killed by the other party. The giant and level 3 cultivator was already in doubt when he saw this. He really couldn't imagine why a giant and level 1 cultivator could be so powerful. But Wei Hong didn't give him time to think. Although he and the leading robber cultivator had collided several times in a row, it happened in a very short time. At the moment, he didn't plan to fight with the other party, but was ready to cut off the other two robber cultivators first. Whoosh! He turned decisively and rushed towards the robber cultivator who controlled the chain. The robber cultivator had just blocked the Xuanmu explosive stab talisman, but suddenly saw Wei Hong coming towards him. He panicked and retreated frantically, while controlling the chains to tie him up again. HMPH, a mere trick. Wei Hong smiled coldly, and dodged the attack of the chains in an instant. Seeing the right opportunity, Wei Hong immediately made hand gestures, and at the same time, he chanted something, and directly cast the control spell, Wooden Prison Imprisonment Spell. At this moment, thick and hard vines quickly grew on the surrounding ground. These vines intertwined with each other, and in the blink of an eye, a huge wooden prison was formed, trapping the robber cultivator who controlled the iron chain. The trapped robber cultivator was instantly terrified, and waved the chains frantically, trying to cut off the vines, but these vines were all extremely tough, and the surface was also as dark green as iron, so his attack was in vain. The chains could only make dull bangs when they hit the vines, but could not cause any damage to the vines. At this time, the forest was filled with a faint fragrance of grass and trees, which was the smell of wood magic. Kill! Wei Hong shouted. Divine Tree Strangling Technique was then cast. As Wei Hong cast the offensive spell, Divine Tree Strangling Technique, the vines in the wooden prison instantly became thicker, like a hard giant tree, and began to spin rapidly. The sharp vines were like sharp blades, strangling the trapped robber cultivator. The robber cultivator at the first level of the golden core immediately screamed. Under the crazy strangulation of the vines, even though he had multiple layers of protection on his body, he was still torn apart in an instant, and his body was gradually torn apart, turning into a ball of blood mist and dissipating in the air. The smell of blood instantly filled the whole place. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 937, The First Battle of Jingshan Thorn. After killing one person instantly, Wei Hong's pressure was greatly reduced. At this time, the leading giant and level 3 robber cultivator saw that one of his two companions was killed in an instant, and the other was also in danger, and he was furious. He drove the black flying knife and rushed towards Wei Hong frantically, and roared in great anger, "Boy, you dare to kill my brother, today I will cut you into pieces." After that, he took a more fierce attack, wrapped in powerful magic power, like a mad beast, and rushed towards Wei Hong frantically. Wei Hong knew that this giant and level 3 robber cultivator was definitely not comparable to the two giant and level 1 robber cultivators, so he was unwilling to entangle with him at this time, and planned to get rid of the giant and level 1 robber cultivator who was entangled by the ghost first. He seized the opportunity, and while the giant and level 1 robber cultivator was entangled by the ghost, he quickly approached while dodging the black flying knife and performed the wooden prison trapping technique again. At this moment, thick vines grew again on the ground around him. These vines intertwined with each other and trapped the robber cultivator again in the blink of an eye. "Boss, help!" The trapped robber cultivator was terrified and frantically shouted for help. Although this man was entangled by dozens of ghosts and could not get out, he had seen the scene of Wei Hong beheading another robber cultivator just now. Now it was his turn to be trapped, and there were still dozens of ghosts entangled outside. This giant and cultivator seemed to have seen the god of death stretching out his sickle towards him. How could he not be desperate? Who would have thought that robbing a giant and first-level cultivator would be a piece of cake, but he didn't expect to kick the iron plate directly and put himself in trouble. When trapped by the wooden prisoner technique, those ghosts would not give him any chance to breathe. Under Wei Hong's drive, dozens of ghosts rushed up and bit the trapped robber cultivator madly. Those ghosts were constantly cultivated and refined by Wei Hong in the secret realm, and their strength far exceeded that of the peak foundation building cultivators. At this time, the giant in level 1 robber cultivator was tightly bound, and no matter how many methods he had, he could not use them. Even with multiple protections, he could not stop the erosion of the ghosts. A scream suddenly sounded, which seemed extremely miserable. However, in a moment, the robber cultivator was gradually torn apart by the attack of the ghosts, and his soul was also devoured by dozens of ghosts, and then a large piece of broken meat and blood was left in the wooden prison. At this point, the second robbery cultivator was also killed on the spot. After the second robbery cultivator was solved by Wei Hong, the leading giant in level 3 robbery cultivator suddenly felt a chill in his heart. At this moment, he finally realized that the cultivator in front of him, who was 2 levels lower than his cultivation, was not simple at all and was even more difficult to deal with. Therefore, he had the idea of retreating and turned around to escape. This person was extremely regretful in his heart. Why did he choose such a tough guy like Wei Hong? However, Wei Hong had already killed 2 robber cultivators, so how could he let the leader escape easily? Seeing that the leading robber cultivator turned around and tried to escape, he immediately snorted. The spiritual attack secret technique, Shocking Spirit Thorn, was then performed. An invisible force was like a sharp thorn, instantly piercing the robber cultivator's sea of consciousness. The robber cultivator of the 3rd level of the giant had just turned around, and felt a sharp pain in his mind. His face turned pale and he fell into a brief trance. Wei Hong had already prepared. He seized this opportunity to control the red flying sword magic weapon to fly towards the robber cultivator. The flying sword was like a red lightning, with an unstoppable momentum, and instantly pierced the robber cultivator's neck, taking away all his life. The leading robber cultivator suddenly widened his eyes. Although he had recovered from the shocking spirit thorn, it was too late. His face was full of unwillingness and shock. He never thought that he would die here. The robber cultivator of the 3rd level of the giant actually fell at the hands of a cultivator of the 1st level of the giant. If he had known that this would be the result, this person would never dare to provoke Wei Hong. Finally, the robber cultivator let out an unwilling and desperate roar, and the red flying sword circled around, and his head and body were instantly separated. At this point, all 3 robber cultivators were killed on the spot. Seeing this, Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief. These 3 robbery cultivators were the strongest opponents he had encountered since he broke through to the giant stage. They were much stronger than Huang Fugang and the 2-headed green knight python, especially the robbery cultivator of the 3rd level of the giant. Even if his strength was a little superficial, it was still difficult for ordinary giant cultivators to resist. Unfortunately, they met Wei Hong. If he didn't have the spiritual attack method of the shocking soul thorn, he might not be able to kill the robber cultivator of the 3rd level of the giant. With the opponent's cultivation, if he wanted to escape, he didn't have many means to stop him. The shocking soul thorn is indeed an excellent means of sneak attack, otherwise I would have to spend a lot of effort. Wei Hong whispered softly, and immediately began to clean up the battlefield. He first collected the storage bags and magic weapons of the 2 giant and level 1 robber cultivators, and then used the 10,000 souls banner to absorb the soul of the robber cultivator who controlled the chains. As for the soul of the other giant and level 1 robber cultivator, it had already been completely devoured by dozens of ghosts, and the aura of the dozens of ghosts also increased a bit, becoming more terrifying. Then he came to the body of the giant and level 3 robber cultivator who was the leader, and suddenly fell into deep thought. These 3 people ambushed here and attacked him for no reason, which made him instinctively feel that something was wrong and he was quite suspicious. But there was no evidence, so he thought of the soul-searching technique. The next moment, Wei Hong decisively stretched out his right hand and grabbed the head of the robber cultivator that had been cut off. "Let me see, what exactly are you?" Wei Hong's expression was cold, and he directly performed the soul-searching technique. It was impossible for anyone not to be extremely angry to be ambushed inexplicably just after leaving the trade fair. If it weren't for his strong foundation and many trump cards, he might have really fallen today. Therefore, Wei Hong wanted to see who these 3 robbery cultivators were, and how dare they set up an ambush near the trade fair. You better not be from the Divine Will sect, Knowing clearly the area where they left the trade fair, he naturally suspected that it was the Divine Will sect who did it. After all, as the organizer of the trade fair, the Divine Will sect was the only one who knew the routes and areas where all the Jinden cultivators left. Wei Hong's suspicion was actually understandable. His spiritual sense invaded directly and began to search for everything about the other party. This Jinden level 3 cultivator was already dead. Even though his spiritual sense was slightly stronger than Wei Hong's when he was alive, he had no power to resist at this moment, just like an undefended house, allowing him to do whatever he wanted. After a moment, Wei Hong opened his eyes. But his face looked very ugly at the moment, because the result of the soul search surprised him. Chu State Demon Cultivator. Wei Hong muttered in surprise, and his face became solemn. He didn't expect that the other party's background would be so shocking. Chapter 938 Chu State, Demonic Cultivator. Such an amazing discovery immediately shocked Wei Hong. He could never have imagined that these 3 robbery cultivators were actually demon cultivators from the neighboring country. Vanguard troops? Scouts. Wei Hong secretly took a breath of cold air, and at this time he already felt something was wrong. The truth he learned from the soul search just now made his back feel a little cold. These 3 robbery cultivators are not only demon cultivators from the Chu State, but also have extraordinary identities. The 3 of them are spies sent by the demon cultivator sect to the Day Dynasty, just to inquire and collect various intelligence information about the Day Dynasty. The country where Wei Hong and his friends are located is the Day Dynasty. The Day Dynasty is adjacent to the Chu State. In the Day Dynasty, in addition to the special force of Kangshan Xiancheng, there are only the 3 Yuanying sects of Shenyi sect, Gilai sect and Yashao sect. These 3 Yuanying sects each have no less than 2 Yuanying real people sitting in charge, guarding the order of the dynasty's cultivation, and are the top sect forces in the Day Dynasty. However, the neighboring country of the Day Dynasty, the Chu State, is a complete demon cultivation country. There are 5 Yuanying sects there. Demon cultivation thrives there, while the righteous cultivators have no place to stay. The demon cultivators of the Chu State are treacherous and cruel. They will do anything to improve their strength. In the past 100 years, the ambition of the Chu State has been obvious. It has been trying to invade and annex the Day Dynasty. The major demon cultivation sects have also quietly infiltrated countless spies into Day. These 3 robbery cultivators are one of them. All this intelligence information was obtained by Wei Hong through soul searching. What shocked Wei Hong even more was that the Blood Spirit sect, which had a great battle with Kangshan Xiancheng and almost destroyed Kangshan Xiancheng, was just a small branch of the Blood Demon sect of the Chu State, and was far inferior to the strength of the Blood Demon sect. As one of the 5 top sects of the Chu State, the Blood Demon sect is several times stronger than the Blood Spirit sect in terms of strength and heritage. The disciples of the Blood Demon sect are good at controlling the power of blood spirits. The magic they cast is strange and unpredictable, making it difficult to defend against. Even in the state of Chu, ordinary people dare not provoke them. Such shocking news instantly made Wei Hong realize that the Day Dynasty was on the verge of life and death, and sooner or later, there would be a war with the state of Chu. In this case, won't the Day Dynasty and the state of Chu definitely have a protracted war? Wei Hong murmured with a solemn face, and he already felt vaguely uneasy in his heart. From the soul search, it was learned that the overall strength of the state of Chu was definitely much stronger than that of the Day Dynasty, and the methods of those demon cultivators were very strange and unpredictable. Without special means, it would be difficult to resist. On the other hand, in the Day Dynasty, the world of immortal cultivation showed a situation of 3 Yuanying sects standing side by side. The 3 Yuanying sects have their own characteristics, but they cannot suppress the 2 sects. The cultivators of the Divine Will sect are good at soul cultivation. They can use the powerful power of the soul to see through the enemy's weaknesses, so as to defeat the enemy and often be difficult to defend against. It is said that there are 2 great Yuanying Zhenren in the Shenyi sect, and one of them, the Grand Elder Zuanfeng's Henren, is a strong man in the middle stage of Yuanying who has practiced for hundreds of years. The Gilai sect is famous for its extraordinary temperament and unfathomable skills. The monks of the Gilai sect specialize in swordsmanship, with sharp sword skills and the pursuit of extreme speed and power. Their sword moves are like the breeze, seemingly gentle, but actually contain endless murderous intent. The uniqueness of the beast-taming sect lies in its close connection with spirit beasts, and often uses the powerful combat power of spirit beasts to form a situation of fighting with more against fewer. The monks of the beast-taming sect can communicate with spirit beasts and fight with the power of spirit beasts. They are also very good at the art of beast-taming. Every disciple of the beast-taming sect controls at least one or two spirit beasts. These spirit beasts have their own magical powers. Some are good at tracking, some are good at defense, and some have powerful attack capabilities. The Dai dynasty is adjacent to the state of Chu, and the relationship between the two countries has always been tense. The continuous infiltration and provocation of the state of Chu has gradually become blatant. Moreover, the invasion plan of Chu state has been secretly prepared for decades. They not only send a large number of spies, but also secretly gather troops to prepare to break through the defense line of Dai dynasty in one fell swoop, so as to completely annex Dai dynasty and make it a part of their Chu state. Because the demon cultivators are the most aggressive and the most crazy, they can have no limit for various cultivation resources. Invading Dai dynasty is also for Dai dynasty's huge trump card and countless cultivation resources. Only by expanding out can the demon cultivators of their Chu state become stronger. Such amazing intelligence news made Wei Hong feel cold in his heart. He murmured secretly, Chu state has been planning for so long, a war is inevitable. Thinking of this, he didn't dare to stay here any longer. So he immediately took out the 10,000 souls banner and collected the soul of this third-level giant and cultivator, and then immediately turned into a stream of green light and left this place directly. Flying in the sky with a sword, Wei Hong slowly played with a miniature banner in his hand. This miniature banner was the 10,000 souls banner that he had stored in his body for warming. He took it out on purpose at this time. This time, the 10,000 souls banner absorbed 2 giant and stage souls again. The aura it exuded at this time was much higher than before. Wei Hong was more and more satisfied. He played with it and murmured, after refining these 2 giant and stage souls, the 10,000 souls banner can almost be promoted to a real magic weapon. Including the 2 souls swallowed this time, the 10,000 souls banner has absorbed the total of 4 giant and stage souls. Since it cannot be promoted to a real magic weapon, it must be closed. When the 10,000 souls banner is promoted to a real magic weapon, it will definitely become another trump card in his hand. Especially the soul of the 3rd giant and stage, it can be completely refined into another main soul. When the 4 giant and stage ghosts come out together, even if they are against giant and cultivators, they will definitely not be in vain. Even ordinary giant and early stage cultivators may not be able to withstand the siege of 4 giant and ghosts. Thinking of this, Wei Hong's uneasiness dissipated a lot. He opened his mouth and sucked, taking the 10,000 souls banner back into his body. Then he immediately accelerated and rushed towards the direction of Kangshan Immortal City. This trip was considered to have achieved his predetermined goal. During the free trading time later, he not only gained the method of refining the defensive shield magic weapon, but also used the black crystal stone ore in his hand to trade several magic weapon materials. After getting those magic weapon materials, Wei Hong immediately found the 2 monks he had targeted before. He laid out the materials needed by the other party one by one to show his sincerity. So, he traded the explosive desperate secret technique and the soul defense secret technique, 6G secret blessing technique, that he had set his eyes on before. In this way, when he successfully practiced the 2 secret techniques and then used the vitality points to improve his realm, the improvement in strength may not be very obvious, but his means have been strengthened a lot, especially the 6G secret blessing technique, which made him no longer afraid of other people's spiritual attacks. Wei Hong was naturally very satisfied with such a harvest. Chapter 939 Crisis, Planning. Kangshan Immortal City. After returning to Kangshan Immortal City, Wei Hong immediately entered his cave and closed the door. The stone door of the training room closed behind him, as if isolating the outside world from all the noise and disturbance. However, his heart could not calm down. The information obtained from the soul search kept circling in his mind, and the more he thought about it, the more nervous he became. He couldn't help but feel a little cold on his back. There was no way, the news was too scary. The Chu state was actually preparing to invade the Dai dynasty where they were. Wei Hong had finally avoided the war between the Blood Spirit sect and Kangshan Immortal City. He thought he could live a peaceful life, but he didn't expect that this greater crisis would surge towards him like a surging tide, which was really unavoidable. The Chu state was a demon cultivation country. When he thought of the upcoming war between the cultivators of the two countries, he felt a shudder. As a giant cultivator, once a war broke out, giant cultivators would undoubtedly be the focus of attention. Although the world of cultivation is vast, his foundation is here. Moreover, he had just taken up the position of a guest official of Kangshan Immortal City, and his connections and resources had just taken root here. How could he escape easily? A war between two countries is 100 times more dangerous and violent than a war between two major forces. If you are not careful, you may be buried in it. You must be extremely cautious about this matter. He paced back and forth in the cave, frowning, constantly weighing the pros and cons in his heart, and at the same time, various thoughts were turning in his mind. Chu is a country of demon cultivators, and there are two more Yuanying sects than the Dai dynasty. In addition, the methods of demon cultivators are strange and unpredictable, which can be said to be hard to guard against. Once a war breaks out, it will definitely sweep across the entire Dai dynasty, and even the sect forces on the Dai dynasty side may be defeated step by step. The degree of danger is absolutely unimaginable. Once Kangshan Immortal City is forced to join the war, he will inevitably join it. At that time, as a giant cultivator, he must face the giant demon cultivators directly. When he thought of this, Wei Hong felt uneasy. He might not be afraid of one or two demon cultivators, but if he was besieged by multiple demon cultivators, or if they were unreasonable and directly sent out the late giant demon cultivators, wouldn't he be in danger of falling? No, if you can avoid participating in the war, you must not participate. You must make self-preservation the first priority. Wei Hong's mind turned rapidly, and he began to think about other ways out. How about leaving Dai dynasty? No, this is not appropriate, let's wait and see. The idea of leaving Dai dynasty just arose in his mind, but he suppressed it immediately. It is not a good thing to run rashly, and it is easy to encounter more dangers in this chaotic situation. Those demon cultivators and independent cultivators hiding in the dark may all appear when he leaves. Moreover, he has no idea where to run, and leaving Dai dynasty may not be a good thing. After thinking about it, Wei Hong could only suppress the idea of leaving, and then decided to actively prepare for the war. He knew that only if his own strength was strong enough could he save his life in this war. Chu is only secretly preparing for the invasion at this time. It seems that the war will not break out in the short term. This way, we have some buffer time. What's more, Dai dynasty has not received any news, so I don't need to be too nervous at this time. In this case, I should start practicing those two secret arts, and I should also hurry up to refine the defensive shield magic weapon. Various ideas and arrangements began to emerge one by one, and Wei Hong quickly adjusted his mentality. Since he couldn't avoid it, he could only actively prepare for the war. He had obtained two secret arts from the trade fair before, one of which was an explosive and disparate secret art, and the other was the 6Gia secret blessing art, which was a soul defense secret art, but unfortunately most of it was incomplete. As long as he successfully practiced these two secret arts, his ability and means to save his life would be immediately improved a lot. At that time, even if the war really broke out, he would no longer have to fear the strange means of the demon cultivators. In addition, Wei Hong also obtained a method to refine a defensive shield magic weapon. It was a growth-type magic weapon, extremely rare and precious. As long as he refines the magic weapon, his strength will also be greatly improved, and it is a shield magic weapon, which is enough to make his defense ability soar again. However, all this must be based on his ability to refine the magic weapon. Among the 4 arts of cultivating immortals, I have spent less energy on refining instruments. Now I want to refine magic weapons myself. It seems that I must invest more vitality points. Wei Hong thought about it and found that his demand for vitality points was still expanding infinitely. In the past, he invested most of his energy in the 3 skills of alchemy, talisman drawing and formation, and practiced less in refining instruments. With his current refining skills, he can only refine spiritual instruments at most, but not magic weapons. Therefore, in order to refine the shield magic weapon, Wei Hong must first go to the library to select some 3rd-level refining methods, and at the same time absorb more refining experience, so as to ensure that he can refine the magic weapon. In this way, he must use more vitality points to improve the realm of refining skills. It seems that I still need to go to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss more often, otherwise the vitality points will not be enough. Thinking of this, he actually had a lot to do. He had to practice refining, and find time to make pills and draw talismans. At the same time, he couldn't fall behind in obtaining vitality points. All these things together were enough to keep him busy for a long time. In this way, his uneasiness was also dissipated a lot. However, Wei Hong also knew that once a war broke out, he had to find a way not to be involved. Therefore, he immediately thought, it seems that the Dai dynasty has not received much intelligence, and even has no idea that the Chu state is secretly preparing for an invasion. Then I must pay close attention to the situation in the Chu state and collect as much intelligence information as possible, so as not to fall into crisis without knowing anything. No matter what the situation is, it is always right to have enough intelligence information. If he does not collect intelligence information, he will not know when the Chu state and the Dai dynasty will go to war. Moreover, he also wanted to know some of the methods of the Chu kingdom's demon cultivators, and strive to know both himself and the enemy, so that he could gain an advantage in future wars, at least to ensure that he would not fall into the evil tricks of the demon cultivators for no reason. Wei Hong was even thinking whether he should quietly spread the news that Chu wanted to invade the Dai dynasty. Wait a minute, and find an opportunity to spread the news later to see how the three Yuanying sects will react. The news must be spread, but the time can be appropriately postponed. As long as the entire Dai dynasty knows the wolfish ambitions of Chu, it will be guaranteed that they will not be caught off guard. After considering everything clearly, Wei Hong took out 3 jade slips from the storage bag. Chapter 940, Heaven Transforming Hunilin Shield. These 3 jade slips were the important gains that Wei Hong had obtained at the trade fair. He picked up the first jade slip, put it between his eyebrows, and then his spiritual consciousness directly probed into it. As his spiritual consciousness probed into the jade slip, an explosive and disparate secret technique called Blood Evil Secret Technique appeared before him. This is a 3rd-level secret technique, but there is no more detailed grade. Wei Hong was slightly curious and immediately read it in detail. At this moment, all the various methods of practicing the secret technique, the effects after casting, and the possible sequelae of the secret technique, etc., were all presented to him. According to the content in the jade slip, once this secret technique is cast, it can activate the evil spirit hidden deep in the body on weekdays, and it will also burn the blood essence. After casting, it can simultaneously enhance one's own mana and body, and increase one's own strength by several times or even dozens of times. Generally speaking, the heavier the evil spirit in the body of the cultivator who casts this technique, the more blood essence is burned at the same time, and the greater the increase in strength. However, the side effects of this technique are extremely great. After being cast, it can last for a quarter of an hour. Once the time is up, the person will immediately fall into a weak state. At that time, the person will be seriously injured at the least, or his meridians will be broken and his cultivation will regress at the worst. It must not be cast unless it is absolutely necessary. Especially after falling into a weak state, it is like a lamb to be slaughtered, and even the key training period cultivators are powerless to resist. Therefore, if an ordinary giant cultivator casts this technique, he must kill the enemy within a quarter of an hour and then find a safe environment for healing, otherwise he will die anyway. Of course, for Wei Hong, such side effects can be completely ignored. Because he has vitality points to recover from his injuries, this secret technique seems to be tailor-made for him. After a moment, Wei Hong gently opened his eyes, and then said with a little surprise, I didn't expect that this is still a secret technique that requires a lot of evil spirits to cast, but it is just right. The so-called evil spirits are generally condensed by killing. Whether it is killing a monk or killing a monster, it will be contaminated with evil spirits. The more you kill, the heavier the evil spirits will be. Wei Hong has killed a lot of monks since he started to cultivate immortality, from the key training stage to the golden core stage, and he has killed a lot of monsters, otherwise how could he obtain so many vitality points? As a result, he naturally condensed a very strong evil spirit in his body, which just met the conditions for practicing the Blood Evil Secret Art. Once it is used, it will definitely have an amazing effect. The 3rd level Secret Art Blood Evil Secret Art has been successfully included. The current proficiency is entry level, 1/5000. At this time, the system sent a prompt sound at the right time. After recording the Blood Evil Secret Art into the system, he temporarily put it aside and picked up the 2nd jade slip. This jade slip records the Soul Defense Secret Art, 6th Secret Blessing Art. Wei Hong had briefly read the cultivation outline before, And now he took a closer look. The divine consciousness probed into the jade slip, and the content inside was immediately presented. According to the contents of the jade slip, this technique is divided into 9 characters, which correspond to the 9-character motto of Taoism, namely, when the soldiers fight, they all march forward in formation. Each character can be practiced separately. After successful practice, a protective shield will automatically form outside the soul to resist the attack of the soul. Moreover, every time a character is practiced, the soul protective shield will be thicker. If all 9 characters are practiced to perfection, it will have an incredible mysterious effect. By then, even if the consciousness is several times stronger than Wei Hong, it will not be able to attack his soul. Unfortunately, this secret technique is now mostly incomplete, with only one practice method of the Lin character, and no trace of other practice methods. Although Wei Hong felt a little regretful, he also understood that even if he only practiced this Lin character, it would come in handy at a critical moment. At least it could resist the secret technique of consciousness attack like the Jingshan Si. After more than half an hour, he gently opened his eyes. Ling. The third-level secret technique 6Jia secret blessing technique, Lin Ziju, was successfully included, and the current proficiency is entry level, 1/2000. Well, the starting base is 3000 points less, which is normal. After all, the entire secret blessing technique has a total of 9 words. If the vitality points required for each word to improve the realm are the same as other secret techniques, then this 6Jia secret blessing technique is definitely not a third-level secret technique, but at least a 4th-level level. Seeing that the starting base of the Lin Ziju to improve the realm is 2000 points, which is 3000 points lower than other third-level spells, Wei Hong was not surprised at all, but felt that this was normal. Even so, if the entire 6Jia secret blessing technique is gathered together with 9 words, the vitality points required in the end are also extremely large, far more than a normal third-level spell. If he did not value the special defensive effect of this secret technique, he might not be willing to invest vitality points. Alice, vitality points, everything needs vitality points as support. Wei Hong looked helpless, and he was quite emotional in his heart. The gap of vitality points was too big. Whether it was magic or skills, or alchemy and equipment refining, they all needed vitality points to improve their realm, so that they could play the expected effect and power as soon as possible. Without vitality points as support, his speed would drop by more than half whether he practiced skills or magic, so Wei Hong's desire for vitality points had reached its peak at this moment. He knew in his heart that Wan Xian must be visited frequently. Thinking of this in his heart, he took up the 3rd jade slip in his hand. He put the jade slip on his forehead and probed into it directly. When his consciousness probed into it, the 5 glittering characters, Huashan Hunan Shield, appeared in his mind at the first time. Obviously, this jade slip recorded the method of refining a defensive magic weapon called Huashan Hunan Shield. The name alone is very eye-catching, and Wei Hong immediately took a closer look. According to the contents of the jade slip, this shield is an extremely rare growth-type magic weapon. After the first refining, it is only at the level of the 3rd order lower grade. However, after the successful refining, it only needs to continuously integrate various secret mines, rare ores and special materials to continuously improve the grade and power of this Huatian shield. The jade slip even mentioned that as long as more and more precious secret mines can be found, the grade and power of the Huatian shield can be infinitely improved, with almost no upper limit. Tisk, it's as real as it is, and it can be infinitely improved. In fact, I will be satisfied if it can reach the 4th order extreme level. When Wei Hong saw that sentence, he smiled indifferently in his heart. He only believed in his own strength. If he could not break through to the nascent soul stage, then the Huatian shield in his hand would naturally not be able to be upgraded to the 4th level. This is beyond doubt. Therefore, his strength determines the maximum grade that the Huatian shield can be upgraded to. Chapter 941 The Secret Art of Blood Evil. In the training room, Wei Hong sat cross-legged on the golden futon with his eyes closed. After recording all the 2 secret arts into the system, he planned to practice the Blood Evil secret art first. Now he didn't have many vitality points left, so he could only temporarily upgrade the Blood Evil secret art and 6Jia secret blessing art, Lin Ziju, to the mastery level. He also needed to set aside some vitality points in order to improve the level of the weapon refining skills. After upgrading the blood evil secret art, to the mastery level, Wei Hong began to formally practice this secret art. According to the records in the Jade Slips and the cultivation experience absorbed when improving the level, he first operated his own skills and gathered all the mana in his danshin. Then, in the center of the vortex of mana, he slowly drew out a trace of evil spirit hidden deep in his body. This evil spirit was like a wisp of black smoke. As soon as it appeared, it caused a tingling sensation in his danshin, as if countless tiny needles were piercing it. Wei Hong endured the pain and carefully guided the evil spirit, carefully wrapped it with his magic power, and then guided it to slowly flow along the meridians. As the evil spirit slowly flowed through the meridians, Wei Hong's body began to change. A faint black halo appeared on the surface of his skin, and his muscles unconsciously tightened up. Every muscle seemed to be exerting force, trying to break free from the restraints of his body. Wei Hong could feel that his strength was gradually increasing, but this increase in strength was accompanied by great pain. His meridians seemed to be torn by a powerful force and were in danger of breaking at any time. In order to control this evil spirit, he did not dare to neglect it at all, and concentrated all his energy, focusing all his mind on guiding the flow of the evil spirit. He constructed a magic channel in his mind, trying to make the evil spirit run along the route he set. However, that trace of evil spirit was like a naughty child, always deviating from the route he set and running around. Whenever the evil spirit lost control, Wei Hong would feel a sharp pain in his body, and his face became even paler. Beads of sweat rolled down his forehead, soaking the cushion in front of him. This was because it was his first time practicing the blood evil secret technique. Even though he had used his vitality points to reach the mastery level, he had not absorbed much experience and practice, so he could not accurately control that trace of evil spirit. As long as he could control that trace of evil spirit freely, it meant that he had successfully practiced a blood evil secret technique. Just when he was about to give up, Wei Hong suddenly remembered a key point mentioned in the Jade Slip: use the heart as a guide and control the spirit with the mind. At this time, he suddenly realized that he had paid too much attention to the guidance of magic power and ignored the inner thoughts, so he immediately abandoned all distractions, focused his inner thoughts on the evil spirit, and used a firm mind to control the evil spirit. Soon, the evil spirit that was originally running around began to gradually become docile under Wei Hong's powerful mind, and then slowly ran through the meridians according to the route he set. Taking this opportunity, he immediately increased the intensity of guiding the evil spirit, and more evil spirit surged out of his danshin and merged into his magic power. The next moment, Wei Hong was blessed and his hands immediately changed the magic formula. Buzz! His body, along with the magic power and evil spirit in his body, shook one after another, and his magic power immediately surged. He could feel that his strength was increasing at an astonishing speed. With every breath, he could feel the surrounding spiritual energy rushing towards him like a surging tide, being absorbed by his body like a whale, and quickly converted into magic power. The surge in magic power naturally led to a rapid increase in strength. However, this increase came at a price. As the evil spirit continued to increase, the pressure on Wei Hong's body became greater and greater. His meridians had been eroded by the evil spirit and were about to break. Although his physical body had also been strengthened a lot, his internal organs were under tremendous pressure, and countless tiny cracks appeared on the surface of his skin. Blood overflowed from each tiny crack and dripped onto the futon. His bones were also making a cracking sound, as if they would break at any time. Moreover, the blood essence in his body also began to burn, like firewood, which helped the surge of mana. Wei Hong was shocked and did not dare to continue to draw out the evil spirit. He immediately stopped guiding the evil spirit, because if he continued to draw out the evil spirit in his body might not be able to withstand the rapid surge of strength and explode directly. After a moment, Wei Hong breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, he was able to freely control the mana in his body, as well as the strength that had just surged several times. The first time he successfully performed the blood evil secret art, he felt the domineering and powerfulness of this secret art. It is worthy of being an explosive and disparate secret art. It really cannot be used unless it is absolutely necessary. Wei Hong murmured, but he was very satisfied with this secret art. He could clearly feel that although he only drew out a small part of the evil spirit in his body when he first performed it, his strength increased by at least 3 times. If he drew out more evil spirit, it would naturally increase more, but he could not control it yet. First, because his level of this blood evil secret art is not high enough, and second, because he is not proficient enough. He needs to practice continuously, so that his body and meridians can slowly adapt to the changes of the evil spirit. It's just that next time you practice, you don't need to go directly to the last step. You just need to keep familiarizing yourself with the previous steps and let your meridians adapt to the operation of the evil spirit. Wei Hong knew in his heart that he just wanted to test the strength of this secret art when he first performed it. Next time he practiced, he didn't need to go to the last step, so that he wouldn't fully display the secret art. He just kept practicing the previous steps, slowly improving his level and making him more familiar. He subconsciously clenched his fists and could feel the powerful power contained in them. Moreover, the mana in his meridians was ready to go, just like a volcano about to erupt. Once it was activated, it would erupt with terrible power. With a threefold increase in strength, I should be able to kill the giant in level 3 cultivator in seconds, right? With his already powerful mana, if it were to increase by more than 3 times, if you were to encounter the giant in level 3 cultivator at this time, perhaps there would be no need to go through so much trouble, and the other party would be killed on the spot with just 2 spells. However, such an increase also requires a huge price. Wei Hong could feel that his meridians were becoming riddled with holes under the corrosion of the evil spirit, and the injuries on his body were also rapidly expanding. Although these injuries and side effects were not obvious for the time being due to the sudden increase in strength, Wei Hong knew very well that when the duration of the secret technique was over, these side effects would be completely revealed, enough to make a giant and cultivator miserable. A quarter of an hour later, Wei Hong felt the ravages of the secret technique's side effects very clearly. Chapter 942, Soul Defense Shield. 3 days later. Wei Hong still sat cross-legged on the golden silk cushion, but this time he was practicing the 6G secret blessing technique. Although this secret technique was incomplete, with only the Lin character technique left, he also understood that in the upcoming brutal war, even just an extra point of soul defense could become the key to life and death. So he had to practice this secret technique successfully as soon as possible in order to deal with a war that could break out at any time. He also raised the 6G secret blessing technique, Lin character technique to the mastery level, and absorbed a lot of practice experience and insights. According to the instructions of the practice method, Wei Hong closed his eyes and immediately concentrated his mind, and then began to outline the rune of the word, Lin, in his mind. This, Lin, rune is not a common word used by cultivators, but a very rare and mysterious rune. If Wei Hong had not used his vitality points to raise the Lin character technique to the mastery level, he might not be able to understand the meaning of this rune. The most obvious sign of successfully practicing the Lin character technique is to outline the complete Lin rune. But Wei Hong encountered a problem at the beginning. Normally, when he was running his mana, it was running very smoothly, without any sense of stagnation, and he was in control. But at this moment, when he tried to guide his mana to draw runes, his mana became extremely violent, running around like a wild horse. Wei Hong's forehead was covered with fine beads of sweat, and he hurriedly ran the Green Emperor longevity technique to try to get his mana back under control. However, this agitated mana caused a slight tingling sensation in his meridians, as if he was pierced by countless fine needles. Fortunately, the tingling sensation was not too strong, and it did not cause any damage to the meridians. After he performed the Blood Evil secret technique, he immediately used the vitality points to recover all the injuries in his body. At this time, his meridians were naturally intact and without any damage. After finally stabilizing his mana, Wei Hong tried to draw runes again. To outline a Lin rune in the soul, not only does it require the construction of mana, but also the cooperation of consciousness. Both are indispensable. Therefore, the difficulty of the first step is very great, and it also requires extremely subtle control of mana and consciousness. Wei Hong is naturally not afraid of any difficulties, and is concentrating on outlining the Lin rune. At first, the rune was just a vague outline, looming in his mind, as if it would dissipate at any time. He carefully guided the mana, trying to make the lines of the rune clearer. But every time when the rune seemed to be about to take shape, there would be an inexplicable force interfering, causing the strokes of the rune to become distorted, and then suddenly collapsed. Wei Hong did not give up. He tried again and again, and constantly referred to the cultivation experience he had absorbed before, and practiced step by step. As time went on, he found that this secret technique required extremely high concentration of the soul, and any trace of distracting thoughts would affect the cohesion of the rune, so he constantly adjusted his state, abandoned all external interference, and focused all his attention on that point in his mind. After countless attempts, the vague outline of the rune finally began to become clear, and the strokes gradually became distinct, as if it would be completely formed in the next moment. Just as the rune was about to take shape, a strong pressure suddenly emerged from the depths of his soul, as if an invisible big hand wanted to completely erase the rune he had just condensed. This pressure was as huge as a tidal wave, causing his soul to tremble. Wei Hong's face immediately turned pale, and his body began to tremble slightly. He felt as if his soul was placed under a huge millstone and could be crushed at any time. But he was only one step away from condensing successfully, so how could he give up easily? So he immediately gritted his teeth, tried his best to control his consciousness to fight against the pressure. Moreover, Wei Hong was constantly recalling the cultivation experience he absorbed when he was improving his realm, and operated his mana according to a specific rhythm, trying to use the operation of mana to resist this strong pressure. After an unknown amount of time, just when he was about to give up, suddenly, a flash of inspiration flashed through his mind, as if a tightly closed door was quietly opened. Buzz! Wei Hong's soul shook slightly, and a rune condensed directly in his soul. When this rune condensed, he immediately felt that he had established a wonderful connection with the rune, and a mysterious power slowly flowed out of the rune and then directly merged into his soul. In an instant, he felt that there was an extra layer of protective shield outside his soul. Although this layer of protective shield was very thin, it brought him an unprecedented sense of security and made his soul feel a very reliable warmth, just like a person walking into a small house in the cold winter, and this small house could shelter him from the wind and rain. When this soul protective shield was formed, Wei Hong immediately understood its function. In the future, as long as the enemy launches a spiritual attack on him, or involves sneak attacks and underhanded tricks such as soul, this layer of protective shield can block those attacks for him at the first time, and it is automatic defense. Even if he couldn't resist, it would give Wei Hong enough time to react. In this way, his soul would be much safer, especially when the war between the two countries broke out. He would not be tricked by those strange demon cultivators. Haha, good, wonderful, it is indeed a rare soul defense secret technique, and it is worth my effort to trade it. Feeling the mystery of the soul protection shield, Wei Hong laughed happily. After successfully practicing the Lin character formula, his uneasiness finally dissipated a lot. Moreover, his current Lin character formula is only at the mastery level. When he obtains more vitality points and raises it to the perfect or even extreme level, the ability to protect the soul will be further improved. I just don't know what the specific effect is. I need to find an opportunity to test it. Wei Hong pondered in his heart, and then thought of the other 8 character formulas. He immediately thought, what a pity. If I can gather the other 8 character formulas, I don't know how mysterious this secret technique is in its complete state. Just the Lin character formula made him feel that this secret technique was definitely not simple. If he could really complete this secret technique, it might bring him an extremely huge surprise. Unfortunately, this was just an empty dream. Now there is no news about the remaining 8 character formulas. Well, this matter can't be rushed. I can only rely on chance. I will look for it later when I have a chance. Suppressing the thoughts in his mind, Wei Hong continued to experience the mystery of the layer of soul protection shield. Chapter 943 The Essence of Third Level Refining. Book Pavilion, 3rd floor. After Wei Hong successfully practiced a Blood Evil Secret Art and 6GS Secret Blessing Art Lin character formula, he knew that the upcoming war was extremely dangerous, and it might still be difficult to deal with it with his current strength and trump cards. He knew very well that if he wanted to survive in the war and play a greater role, he had to further improve himself, so after careful consideration, he decided to strengthen his weapon refining skills and prepare for refining the powerful heaven-transforming Hunun shield. So he came to the 3rd floor of the book pavilion in Kangshan Immortal City, which is also the place where various 3rd-level skills, secrets and classics are stored. Stepping into the 3rd floor of the book pavilion, an old and simple atmosphere hits you. 12 bookshelves are neatly arranged, filled with dense jade slips, ancient books and notes. The soft spiritual light illuminates every corner, making the whole space look quiet and solemn. Wei Hong took a deep breath and began to look for the weapon refining method he needed in this ocean of knowledge. Before The city lord Lei Ling promised that he could exchange various jade slips and ancient books about skills in the library for free. He first came to the area dedicated to the storage of books on refining. The bookshelves here were filled with various jade slips and ancient books related to refining. Some of the jade slips flickered with a faint spiritual light on the surface. Obviously, they had been consulted by many cultivators and contained a wealth of knowledge about refining. Wei Hong walked slowly along the bookshelf, his eyes calmly scanning the labels of each jade slip and ancient book. Hey, the essence of third-level refining? This may be useful. Wei Hong whispered to himself and reached out to take a jade slip. He probed his spiritual sense into it and quickly browsed the contents. This jade slip detailed the basic principles of third-level refining, material selection, and some common refining techniques. And the explanation was very clear, especially the basics. For Wei Hong, this was important information to consolidate the foundation of refining, so he carefully put the jade slip into the storage bag and continued to search. As time went on, Wei Hong shuttled between the bookshelves more and more frequently. He also found several ancient books on third-level refining, such as The Secret of the Fusion of Spirit Crystal and Refining, and the Application of Rare Minerals in Refining. These ancient books recorded many precious refining experiences and unique refining techniques, which made him gain a lot. However, he could not study them carefully now, so he could only read them carefully after returning. However, what he wanted most were the refining notes that recorded the refining experience and unique insights. Such notes were often written by experienced refiners, and they contained the problems they encountered in the refining process, solutions, and some unknown experiences. After searching for a while, Wei Hong found several old notes on a bookshelf in a corner, which were exactly what he was looking for. His eyes lit up immediately, and he couldn't wait to pick up one of them. The cover of this notebook reads Records of Refining Experience, Level 3. After opening it, it records in detail the experience of a Level 3 refiner in refining various magic weapons, from the pre-treatment of materials, to the control of the temperature, to the stimulation of the spirit after the magic weapon is formed, etc. Each link is described in detail. Wei Hong was overjoyed and continued to search on this bookshelf. After a while, he found two equally precious notebooks, one titled Analysis of the Keynotes of Refining Level 3 Magic Weapons, and the other titled Exploration of the Miraculous Effects of Special Materials in Level 3 Refining. These two notebooks have conducted in-depth discussions on Level 3 refining from different angles, which can definitely provide valuable ideas for his upcoming refining of the Huashan Hunun Shield. The time in the library passed quickly. Unknowingly, the sky outside had gradually darkened. He had been in the library for at least 3 or 4 hours. Wei Hong left the library with a pile of jade slips and notebooks, feeling satisfied. These jade slips and notebooks do not need to be copied, and he can return them all after reading them thoroughly. Wei Hong knew that this refining knowledge would be the key to improving his refining skills. After returning to the cave, he would immediately devote himself to the study of this refining knowledge, and began to carefully study those refining techniques and refining experience, in order to make the final preparations for refining the Huashan Hunun Shield. In the training room, Wei Hong held a jade slip in his hand, and a thoughtful look appeared on his face. He muttered to himself at this time, if you want to refine the Huashan Hunun Shield, it is not enough to just improve your refining skills. You also need to collect enough materials. These materials are not easy to get, and they are expensive. According to the records in the jade slip, the main material for refining the Huashan Hunun Shield is 1,000-year-old cold iron, and the pure iron part is required to withstand the energy impact generated when the subsequent materials are integrated. The auxiliary material requires the third-level low-grade cloud and mist essence stone. This ore grows on the top of a high mountain, where clouds and mist are lingering all year round. It has a unique spiritual power fluctuation and can enhance the spiritual power capacity of the magic weapon. In addition, a drop of earth core fire marrow is needed. It contains powerful fire energy and is the key to activating the spirituality of the magic weapon. It is absolutely indispensable. In addition, 3 different spiritual crystals of different attributes need to be collected, namely the Kinglan spiritual crystal of wind attribute, the Yaoshu spiritual crystal of water attribute, and the Haodu spiritual crystal of earth attribute. They can give the magic weapon various defensive characteristics. The above materials are the most important, and the remaining ones are auxiliary materials. Although they are all third-level materials, they are much cheaper than the above materials. Even so, If Wei Hong wants to collect all these materials, it may cost a lot of money, and some things may not be available. Alice, I regret not having enough money when I need it. Wei Hong couldn't help but feel a headache when he thought about needing a large amount of spiritual stones immediately. He was not stingy, but worried that his spiritual stone reserves were insufficient. The spiritual stones earned were meant to be spent, and they were used to enhance his own strength. No matter how much he spent, he would not feel bad, but he was worried that he could not buy the materials he wanted due to insufficient spiritual stones. Starting tomorrow, I'll go to all the shops. If I don't have enough spirit stones, I'll go to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss to see if there are any lone giant monsters. This way, I can also earn vitality points, which is a good way to kill two birds with one stone. Wei Hong already had a plan in mind. He must find time to go to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss a few more times. First, to obtain vitality points. Without vitality points, it would be difficult for his secret techniques and refining skills to improve. Second, to hunt giant stage monsters. The materials on those giant stage monsters are very valuable. As long as he can successfully hunt one or two, maybe he won't have to worry about the problem of insufficient spirit stones. Of course, he can also sell the black crystal ore. Moreover, Wei Hong also wanted to turn the secret room next to the secret mine in the 10,000 Snakes Abyss into a secret cave, so that he could continue to mine and leave a way out for himself. Even if the war really broke out, he could take refuge there. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 944, Secret Practice. Time flies, and 2 years have passed in a flash. Wei Hong is now staying in the secret cave inside the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. He has been here for half a month. Half a month ago, after arriving at the 10,000 Snakes Abyss, he immediately performed the paperman technique, and 6 pieces of talisman paper instantly turned into 6 papermen, each carrying 1/10 of his magic power. He sent the 6 papermen out and let them scatter and hunt demon snakes in the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. After arriving at the cave, Wei Hong began to arrange and transform the cave. This was just a secret room that was dug out casually before. Since he intended to turn it into a secret cave, he naturally couldn't be as casual as before, so he also made a lot of preparations for this time. The first is the arrangement of the interior of the cave. He expanded the cave a lot, and prepared an alchemy room and a refining room. After all, his main focus in the future is still on studying refining. Then he arranged 2 magic arrays outside the cave, which were the 7 Stars Destroying Heaven Array, and Yin-Yang Reversal Array, that he exchanged before. With the protection of these 2 formations, the secret cave he built in the 10,000 Snakes Abyss was as stable as Mount I. After finishing the layout of the cave, Wei Hong immediately summoned 2 paper figures and ordered them to continue digging for black crystal stones, which was his most important source of spiritual stones. In the cave, Wei Hong practiced and consolidated the Blood Evil Secret Art and 6Gia Secret Blessing Art, Lin, character formula while studying the jade slips and notes of refining tools found from the library, and continued to deepen his practice. After releasing the paper figures, he didn't have to worry about it anymore. Whether those paper figures could hunt down the snake demon or were destroyed, it didn't matter much, and it didn't matter to him. If the paper figure was destroyed by the snake demon, he would replace it with another one. When the mana was exhausted, he would come back to replenish it. Moreover, the destroyed paper figure could not contact him at all. He was already familiar with these things, and he just had to wait for the vitality point in the cave. Wei Hong was sitting in front of a stone table, with jade slips and notes of refining tools found from the library in front of him. He frowned, concentrating on studying the jade slip in his hand. His consciousness quickly shuttled through it, not missing any details. The theories and techniques of refining recorded in the jade slip were complex and profound, and some key steps in rune drawing made him ponder over and over again. These theories, techniques and methods of refining cannot be included in the system, and he can only rely on himself to study more. At the beginning, these profound and complicated theories and techniques of refining made Wei Hong feel very obscure and difficult to understand. Before, his refining skills were only at the 2nd level, and it was indeed difficult to study the knowledge of refining at the 3rd level. Fortunately, He had vitality points that could directly improve the realm of refining skills. After he improved his refining skills to the 3rd level, he felt much more relaxed when reading these things, and they were also very easy to understand. If it were other giant and cultivators who wanted to get started with a 3rd level of refining skills, I am afraid that without several years or even more than 10 years of continuous study, it would not be possible to succeed. After upgrading his weapon refining skills to the 3rd level, Wei Hong did not rush to refine the heaven-transforming primordial shield. Instead, he prepared to thoroughly study these weapon refining notes and practice for a period of time before preparing to start refining magic weapons. Sometimes he closed his eyes and meditated, constantly simulating the process of refining in his mind. Sometimes he opened his eyes, wrote and drew on paper, and recorded his understanding and questions. In order to better understand a special method of injecting spiritual power, he repeatedly compared multiple notes, trying to comprehend the mystery from different angles, hoping to get more inspiration. When encountering contradictory views, he would fall into long-term thinking, analyzing the pros and cons of each viewpoint, and combining his own experience to judge right and wrong. In order to verify his ideas, Wei Hong began to try some simple weapon refining experiments. He took out some ores bought in advance from the Immortal City and smelted them according to the method in the Jade Slip. After the 3rd level of weapon refining skills, there are many more methods, whether it is the method of refining materials or the fusion of materials. Moreover, weapon refining is also divided into factions, and the methods of the major weapon refining factions are naturally very different. Take the refining of red flame iron as an example. Wei Hong himself knows no less than 10 methods, and there may be more that he does not know, so he wants to absorb more knowledge of refining equipment and also wants to experiment more. He manipulated his mana to wrap the ore accurately with a damp fire, constantly adjusting the temperature and intensity of the flame, so that the ore gradually melted under high temperature, all the impurities were burned into nothingness, and the essence became a pool of liquid emitting a faint glow. However, when he tried to inject mana into it and wanted to shape this pool of liquid, he encountered failure. The spiritual power in the liquid was instantly disordered and soon lost. This result was not the first time, so Wei Hong was not discouraged. He carefully analyzed the reasons for the failure and found that he did not grasp the timing and rhythm of the injection of mana accurately. So he immediately readjusted his state and conducted the experiment again. This time he was more focused, his eyes fixed on the ball of ore liquid, and slowly injected mana at the most appropriate time. With the integration of spiritual power, the liquid began to gradually solidify and slowly formed a simple sword shape. With a deeper understanding of the theory of refining, Wei Hong began to try to combine different refining techniques. It's almost done. Maybe it won't be long before I can start trying to refine my own magic weapon. Wei Hong was secretly delighted and had great expectations for the Huashan Hunyuan shield. As long as he could refine the Huashan Hunyuan shield, his safety would be greatly improved. And he could continue to obtain a lot of black crystal stones, which he could continue to smelt in the future. As for other secret mines and rare materials, he could also collect them slowly. Therefore, he had high hopes for the Huashan Hunyuan shield. At this time, Wei Hong thought to himself, the materials for refining magic weapons are still a little short, and I still have to continue collecting them. Besides, there are not many spirit stones left. I hope that the black crystal stone vein will not be too short. He has purchased a lot of materials in Kangshan Xianchang over the past 2 years, all in preparation for refining the Huashan Hunyuan shield. However, most of what he collected were auxiliary materials. He only bought a main material, the 1,000-year-old cold iron. The remaining materials were either not available due to insufficient spirit stones or were temporarily out of stock. In short, he has not yet collected all the materials. Wei Hong was secretly anxious, so he came to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss to see if he could hunt down a lone golden elixir monster. However, he was not too worried. After returning, he would sell some black crystal stones, and the spirit stone problem would be solved. What he needed more now was a large number of vitality points. 1 year at most, and you must return to the fairy city after 1 year. He didn't dare to stay outside for too long, lest something unexpected happen without his knowledge. Chapter 945, Refining Equipment, Earth Core Fire Marrow. Another year passed quietly. During this period, Wei Hong immersed himself in the world of refining in the secret cave of Huaxian, constantly studying and practicing, and improving his refining skills. Now, his 3rd level refining skills have been upgraded to the limit, and he is extremely proficient in all kinds of refining knowledge and techniques. He feels that he has the ability to refine the heaven-transforming Hunilin shield. In addition, during this year, he used paper figures to hunt a large number of foundation-building snake monsters. Although each snake monster provides a small number of vitality points, ranging from a few to dozens of points, there are as many as millions of snake monsters gathered in one Shion, so with the accumulation of a little, he obtained about 100,000 vitality points in a year. He did not encounter a single giant and stage monster again, which made him feel quite regretful. After receiving a large amount of vitality points, Wei Hong immediately upgraded his third-level refining skills to the limit, so that he had full confidence in refining the heaven-transforming Hunilin shield and no longer worried about failure. The remaining vitality points were kept, ready to be distributed after the magic weapon was refined. So he immediately left the secret cave of Wamxian and returned to Kangshan Immortal City without stopping. After returning to the Immortal City, Wei Hong immediately changed his identity, and then carefully and secretly sold a batch of black crystal stones that he had worked hard to dig in Wamxian, and finally he exchanged for a generous sum of high-quality spiritual stones. With this huge sum of money, he began to search in the major shops in the Immortal City, carefully selecting and purchasing various materials needed to refine the Huashan Hunilin shield, and he carefully identified each material to ensure that it was of high quality and met the refining requirements. After spending several days and consuming most of the accumulated high-quality spiritual stones, Wei Hong finally purchased all the materials needed to refine the Huashan Hunilin shield, and also prepared all the conditions for refining the weapon. With a full bag of materials, he quietly returned to his cave. After returning to the cave, Wei Hong first arranged a spirit gathering array in the refining room. This array can quickly gather the spiritual energy of the surrounding heaven and earth to provide sufficient spiritual support for refining. Then, he arranged defense and concealment arrays around to prevent external interference during the refining process. The most important thing is to cover up the fluctuations of the breath after the magic weapon is successfully refined. After everything was ready, Wei Hong did not start refining the magic weapon immediately. Instead, he meditated in the refining room for 3 days, adjusting his body and mind to the best state before preparing for refining. 3 days later, Wei Hong placed the 1,000-year-old cold iron prepared in advance in a special refining furnace. This 1,000-year-old cold iron is hard in texture and is the core material for refining the Huashan Hunilin shield. It is also the most difficult to handle. His step is to melt the 1,000-year-old cold iron and remove the impurities in it. He directly cast a mana and controlled the earth fire to gush out. In the cave where he was, the weapon refining room and the alchemy room were connected to the most refined underground fire veins in the entire Kangshan Immortal City. They were extremely suitable for both alchemy and weapon refining. Moreover, refining magic weapons could not be easily completed in a short period of time, so he naturally had to use the underground fire to complete the step of melting the 1,000-year-old cold iron. If he used the alchemy fire to refine the materials at the beginning, the consumption of his mana would be too great. A ball of blazing underground fire gushed up from the underground fire mouth and directly enveloped the entire refining furnace. A blazing fire also rose in the furnace, and the flames licked the 1,000-year-old cold iron, making a sizzling sound. This piece of 1,000-year-old cold iron was a foot square and 3 inches thick. The surface exuded a dark green color. Even though it was wrapped in the underground fire, it seemed that there was no change. Tisk, it is worthy of being a 1,000-year-old cold iron. It is really difficult to melt. Seeing this scene, Wei Hong immediately sighed. Millennium cold iron is indeed one of the most difficult materials to melt among the third-level materials. It must be smelted continuously at high temperatures. This is why he chose to use earth fire. It is difficult to support it with Dan fire. As time went by, the temperature of the flame in the refining furnace was also rising steadily. The orange-red flame wrapped around the millennium cold iron, and gradually the dark green color on the surface of the cold iron began to be stained with the light red light. Wei Hong was concentrating, his eyes fixed on the refining furnace, and he kept adjusting the temperature and intensity of the flame to ensure that the millennium cold iron was heated evenly. He sat cross-legged 10 feet away from the refining furnace, meditating to restore his mana while controlling the flame, ensuring that the mana was full and the flame was stable. Wei Hong was very patient and did not feel the slightest bit impatient. It took 3 days just to smelt a millennium cold iron. From the second day, the whole piece of millennium cold iron was finally burned into a red fire color. On the third day, The red cold iron began to melt, and then slowly soften from the edge. On the third night, the 1,000-year-old cold iron finally melted completely. At this time, there was only a fist-sized ball of red liquid left in the refining furnace. The ball of red liquid slowly rotated in the refining furnace and was always wrapped in flames. This was the essence extracted from the 1,000-year-old cold iron, and the impurities had long been burned into nothingness. After completing this step, Wei Hong was immediately refreshed, and then whispered, "Well, it was finally melted." After the 1,000-year-old cold iron was melted, there was no need to pay more attention to it. He only needed to wrap the ball of liquid with flames to keep the temperature from dropping. At this time, he needed to free up his hands to deal with other materials. Wei Hong immediately took out a cloud and mist essence stone. He used his unique spiritual power technique to crush the cloud and mist essence stone into extremely fine particles, and then slowly melted these particles into the cold iron liquid. During the fusion process, he muttered something in his mouth, and quickly formed seals with his hands, urging his magic power to promote the fusion of the two materials. In an instant, the furnace suddenly glowed brightly. The cold iron liquid and the cloud and mist essence stone particles began to blend perfectly under the influence of magic power. As soon as the particles touched the cold iron liquid, they immediately merged into it and began to emit a unique breath. Then, Wei Hong took out the extremely precious drop of the Earth's core fire marrow. This drop of the Earth's core fire marrow alone cost him more than 2,000 high-grade spirit stones. The Earth's core fire marrow contains powerful fire attribute energy. It is the key to activating the spirituality of the magic weapon and one of the absolutely indispensable main materials. He had to be willing to give it up no matter how expensive it was. Wei Hong held his breath at this time and carefully sent the drop of the Earth's core fire marrow into the furnace. As soon as the Earth's core fire marrow came into contact with the fusion of the cold iron liquid and the cloud and mist essence stone, it instantly triggered a violent reaction. The fusion liquid began to roll violently, and flames gushed out of the furnace. It seemed that even the earth fire was a little violent, and the temperature of the flames began to become disordered. Wei Hong's face was solemn. He immediately increased his output of magic power, trying his best to suppress this violent force and trying to let the Earth's core fire marrow smoothly integrate into it. Chapter 946 Shield Upgrade. Buzz. When the core fire marrow merged into the cold iron liquid, the powerful energy reaction caused the entire refining furnace to shake. At this critical moment of fusion, Wei Hong found that the spiritual power in the fusion body showed signs of disorder. It seemed that there was a repulsion reaction between the three materials, and it could not be perfectly fused as he expected. What's going on? Why did the repulsion reaction occur? This change immediately made his face change slightly, and he became anxious in his heart. But he quickly calmed down and recalled the solution he had seen in the refining notes before. So Wei Hong quickly operated his mana and immediately constructed a mana rune array above the refining furnace that he had learned from the refining essence. After the mana rune array was outlined, it immediately released a soft light that enveloped the entire refining furnace, and even the fusion body in the refining furnace was enveloped by the light. In this way, the violent aura emitted by the fusion body instantly weakened a lot. The rune array continued to emit a soft light to reconcile the repulsion between the three materials. Under the effect of the rune array, the spiritual power in the fusion body gradually stabilized, the violent aura was slowly dissipating, and the three materials began to merge perfectly. Seeing this scene, Wei Hong was relieved. The massive fusion body materials in the refining furnace quickly stabilized, and slowly turned under the wrapping of the flame. At this point, the three main materials were processed. The next step is to refine the wind-attributed Kingland Spirit Crystal, the water-attributed Yaoshu Spirit Crystal, and the earth-attributed Haotu Spirit Crystal. Some other auxiliary materials cannot be left behind. Wei Hong took out more than a dozen jade boxes from the storage bag and placed them in front of him, then opened one of the jade boxes. The jade box contained the Kingland Spirit Crystal. The Spirit Crystal was azure blue, and there seemed to be a breeze flowing inside. He picked up the Kingland Spirit Crystal and placed it in his palm, running the mana to form a small mana vortex, wrapped the Spirit Crystal with the mana vortex, and then continued to inject mana. As the mana continued to be injected, the Kingland Spirit Crystal began to tremble slightly, and then fine cracks appeared on the surface, and it looked like it could break at any time. Wei Hong continued to increase his mana output, and the next moment he heard a pop sound, and the Kingland Spirit Crystal shattered into countless tiny light spots, which flashed blue light and rotated and jumped in the spiritual power vortex. He carefully controlled his mana, condensed these light spots into pure wind attribute spiritual power flow, and wrapped it with mana and hovered in the air, ready to merge into the fusion material later. Then, he opened another jade box and picked up the ghost water spirit crystal. This ghost water spirit crystal looked like a clear spring, with a lively water light. Wei Hong used his mana again and used a special method to strip the water attribute spiritual power from the ghost water spirit crystal. Under the effect of mana, the ghost water spirit crystal gradually became transparent, and the water attribute spiritual power inside was successfully extracted, turning into a ball of liquid spiritual power emitting soft blue light. Then he controlled this ball of liquid spiritual power to keep a delicate balance with the wind attribute spiritual power flow refined before, waiting for the opportunity to merge. Finally, there was the thick earth spirit crystal. He opened another jade box and took out the thick earth spirit crystal. The whole crystal was dark yellow and exuded a heavy and simple atmosphere. Wei Hong placed the thick earth spirit crystal on the ground, then quickly formed seals with his hands, constructed a mana rune array of earth attribute around the crystal, and immediately activated the rune array. As the mana rune array operated, the thick earth spirit crystal slowly floated up, and the impurities on the surface were peeled off little by little under the action of the rune array, and a little bit of yellow light began to fall on the ground. Not long after, the entire piece of thick earth spirit crystal became extremely pure. Wei Hong had extracted the earth attribute spiritual power inside it and condensed it into a spiritual power bead emitting yellow light. After refining all three kinds of spiritual crystals, he immediately began to refine all the remaining auxiliary materials. After all the materials were purified, the next step was to fuse the essences of the materials. Wei Hong first merged the wind attribute spiritual power flow into the fusion body in a specific order and proportion. The moment the fusion body came into contact with the wind attribute spiritual power, a layer of light blue halo immediately appeared on the surface, as if it was endowed with a spirit of agility, and then immediately absorbed the wind attribute spiritual power flow into it. Then, he integrated the liquid spiritual power of the water attribute into it, and the water attribute spiritual power and the wind attribute spiritual power intertwined with each other, and the light in the fusion body became brighter. Finally, the earth attribute spiritual power beads and the essence of other auxiliary materials were integrated. The essences extracted from various auxiliary materials were perfectly integrated with the previous fusion body. The entire refining furnace was filled with a strong and harmonious atmosphere, and this atmosphere was rapidly increasing. At this time, this group of liquid that integrated the essence of all materials has the conditions for shaping. This step is a crucial link in the shaping of the magic weapon, and it must not be missed. Wei Hong immediately took a deep breath, his face became solemn, and then his hands danced quickly, forming a series of complex seals. As the seals changed, a strong mana surged from his hands. Under his control, it was like an invisible big hand, slowly reaching into the refining furnace and wrapping the group of fusion materials. The mass of fusion material began to slowly deform under the wrapping and kneading of the magic hand. At first, it just squirmed slightly, as if it had life, and then slowly stretched and grew larger. Wei Hong was concentrating, staring at the refining furnace without blinking, his face calm and calm. His mind was also highly concentrated, and every subtle change in the refining furnace could not escape his eyes. He kept adjusting the output and direction of the magic power, guiding the fusion material to change according to the shape he wanted in his mind. As time went by, the fusion material gradually showed the general outline of the shield. During the shaping process, he also kept taking out some bottles and jars from the storage bag, and poured some powders or special liquids in the bottles and jars into the refining furnace to make them part of the shield. Gradually, the shape of the shield began to appear. At this time, Wei Hong began to carve mysterious runes on the surface of the shield. These runes are the key to enhancing the power of the magic weapon and the unlimited growth of this magic weapon. They are the key things recorded in the jade slip. Wei Hong used his magic power to imprint the shape of the runes on the surface of the shield. Every time he carved a rune, he had to carefully control the strength and frequency of his magic power to ensure that the depth and clarity of the rune were just right. Each rune he carved would disappear into the surface of the shield. As the mysterious runes gradually took shape, the surface of the shield also emitted a hint of dark light. A powerful and strange aura also emanated from it, instantly cheering Wei Hong up. Chapter 947 Hunyuan Shield, formed. The magic weapon is condensed. After a long and arduous refining process, the prototype of the Huashan Hunyuan shield finally appeared in the refining furnace. At this time, the Huashan shield exudes a faint black light, and mysterious runes flash on the surface, faintly revealing a powerful force, and it looks tough and indestructible. But Wei Hong knows that this is only the initial formation, and the refining has not yet been completed. The final spiritual charm stimulation and magic weapon recognition are still needed. So he immediately took a deep breath, calmed down his agitated mood, and completely condensed the shield in the refining furnace into shape, and began to prepare for the spiritual charm stimulation ceremony. The spiritual charm stimulation is the biggest difference between magic weapons and spiritual tools. Only when the spiritual charm is stimulated can it be called a real magic weapon, and its power is naturally far superior to that of spiritual tools. Even the most ordinary magic weapon is not comparable to the best spiritual tools. Wei Hong took out a spiritual bead containing rich spiritual energy from the storage bag and placed it in the mana rune array above the refining furnace. He immediately activated his magic power, and the magic rune array immediately turned unactivated, emitting a powerful pulling force. The spiritual energy in the spirit bead was pulled out by the rune array, and then continuously injected into the Huashan shield. Under the nourishment of the spiritual energy, the rune light on the surface of the Huashan shield became stronger and stronger, and the aura it emitted began to slowly increase, and began to absorb the spiritual energy of the surrounding heaven and earth. With the assistance of the gathering spirit array, the spiritual energy of the surrounding heaven and earth immediately rushed in crazily. The shield in the refining furnace was like a bottomless pit, constantly absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, as if it could never be filled. In this way, the aura of the Huashan shield became more and more prosperous, and the light it emitted became more and more dazzling. If it was placed in the outside world, it might have attracted countless monks to watch. Countless spiritual energy was constantly absorbed by the shield, and the shield became more and more solid. The spirit bead in the magic rune array above the refining furnace also slowly began to dissipate as the spiritual power was pulled out. At this time, the Huashan shield seemed to be filled with a trace of spiritual breath. Gradually, as time went by, the Huashan shield in the refining furnace seemed to have absorbed enough spiritual energy from the heaven and earth, causing the surging spiritual energy around it to calm down again. In this way, the spiritual power in the Huashan shield gradually stabilized. The spiritual charm is done. Wei Hong smiled and immediately put away his magic power. The spiritual charm stimulation ceremony was successfully completed at this time. The breath emitted by the Huashan shield in the refining furnace was filled with powerful spiritual charm. It obviously had preliminary spirituality. In the future, it only needed to be continuously nurtured, and this trace of spirituality would become stronger and stronger. Wei Hong then stretched out his hand and slapped it in the air, and the lid of the refining furnace was immediately opened. Then he used his magic power to pull out the Huashan shield in the furnace and directly suspended it in front of him. In the next breath, he bit the tip of his tongue, and then suddenly spurted out a mouthful of blood, and sprayed all the blood on the Huashan shield. The blood was instantly absorbed by the Huashan shield. The runes on the shield immediately emerged and shone brightly. Then the entire shield resonated strongly with Wei Hong's soul at this moment. Wei Hong immediately closed his eyes and slowly injected his soul power into the shield. Under the traction of the soul power, he seemed to have established a wonderful connection with this Huashan shield. This feeling was very mysterious. He seemed to be able to feel every change and power of the shield, as if he was connected by blood. Buzz! The Huashan shield shook violently and immediately shone brightly. A powerful aura rushed into the sky and wanted to spread out to the surroundings. Fortunately, Wei Hong had already set up a large formation. Whether it was the powerful aura emitted when the magic weapon was first formed or the dazzling light, they were all blocked by the formation, and no trace of it could be leaked. The next moment, the Huashan shield that had just successfully recognized its master suddenly flew up with a whoosh, and then kept circling around Wei Hong, and the light flashed, as if it was very excited. Haha, good, it's worth my hard work. I finally succeeded in refining you. Feeling the joy from the Huashan shield, Wei Hong immediately laughed with joy. At this moment, he was extremely satisfied. After working so hard for so long and paying so much, he finally succeeded in refining his first magic weapon. Moreover, this is a growing defensive magic weapon. As long as he can find more secret mines and rare materials in the future and gradually integrate those materials into the shield, the grade and power of this Huashan shield will continue to improve. Wei Hong is full of expectations for this. especially the trace of blood connection in his soul, which made him feel the huge difference between magic weapons and spiritual tools. After the magic weapon successfully recognized its master, Wei Hong could clearly sense the power of this shield. As soon as he thought about it, the Huashan Hunun shield immediately appeared in front of him, and then it became the size of an 8 immortal table, protecting it firmly behind him. The next moment, the table-sized shield immediately flashed again, and then became the size of a bowl, and flew around in front of him with a whoosh, appearing extremely flexible. As Wei Hong's mind turned, the Huashan Hunun shield immediately flashed in this refining room, sometimes large, sometimes small, sometimes far, sometimes near, and its traces were very unpredictable. He played with it for a long time before he stopped, and then took the magic weapon he had just refined in his hand and began to examine it carefully. His right hand stroked the surface of the shield and found that the shield was a light dark green in color. The surface was not smooth, but slightly rough. There were a lot of mysterious runes engraved on it, but these runes could only be seen under the urging of mana. On the dark green background, there were also strands of golden lines. These golden lines were like flowing magma, and like flashing lightning in the sky, winding and tortuously distributed on the surface of the shield, adding a bit of magnificence and majesty to the shield. The overall shape of this shield is round, just like the full moon in the night sky, giving people a sense of perfection and stability, and also symbolizing the comprehensiveness and invulnerability of its defense. The edge of the shield is slightly curved inward, forming a smooth arc, which not only increases the three-dimensional sense of the shield, but also enables it to better remove external forces when defending. Wei Hong tapped the surface of the shield with his hand, and immediately a crisp sound of clanging was heard. It seemed very hard, like a whole piece of metal. Although he had just refined the magic weapon and had not yet been tested, he was full of confidence in this Huashan Hunun shield, knowing that it would definitely not let him down. When the black crystal stone is integrated into it, I think the power can be taken to a higher level. Such a thought flashed through Wei Hong's mind. Chapter 948, Growth-Type Defensive Magic Weapon. Wei Hong had been prepared, and he took out a piece of black crystal stone the size of a human head directly from his storage bag. This piece of black crystal stone was not the original ore, but was simply refined. Since the Huashan Hunun shield had been refined, he naturally had to melt the black crystal stone that had been prepared long ago into it. Black crystal stone is also known as the spiritual absorption stone in the world of immortal cultivation. It can absorb spiritual power. As long as it is integrated into this shield, it can not only make the power of the Huashan Hunun shield even higher, but also give it the characteristics of absorbing spirits. In this way, its defensive ability will be stronger, and it will be easier to resist attacks from various spells or magic weapons. Wei Hong immediately activated the mana in his body, and with a little urging, a ball of burning damfire condensed in his palm. This ball of damfire was light blue, and as the flames jumped, it exuded a hot and full of vitality. He carefully controlled the damfire and threw it gently. The damfire was suspended in the air. Then he immediately used his magic power to wrap the black crystal stone above the damfire. Wei Hong quickly made hand gestures with his hands. Under the urging of the magic formula, the damfire immediately rose up with a buzzing sound, turning into a flame the size of a bathtub, directly wrapping the black crystal stone. The black crystal stone began to turn slightly red under the scorching damfire, and the scorching temperature also spread to the surroundings. Wei Hong was fully focused, his eyes fixed on the black crystal stone. He kept adjusting the temperature and intensity of the damfire, not daring to be negligent in the slightest. He knew that the key to refining the black crystal stone was to accurately control the temperature. If the temperature was too high, the black crystal stone might turn into ashes in an instant. If the temperature was too low, its essence could not be completely extracted. This was also the reason why he chose to use damfire, not only because the black crystal stone was easier to refine, but also because damfire could be used in a meticulous manner and completely under his control, which was much better than ground fire. As the fire continued to burn, the black crystal stone began to turn red, and a layer of fine sweat beads slowly appeared on the surface. These sweat beads continued to gather and gradually formed a drop of liquid emitting a faint glow. Wei Hong was delighted when he saw this, knowing that the refining had begun to show results. He slowly raised the temperature of the fire to ensure that the black crystal stone was heated evenly. Under the continuous burning of the fire, the black crystal stone gradually began to melt in less than half an hour. Drops of liquid containing a unique breath began to decompose from the black crystal stone and were wrapped by the flames and transferred to the side to maintain the temperature. Soon, the whole black crystal stone turned into a fist-sized ball of essence liquid emitting rich spiritual energy. This ball of liquid was light golden, as if it contained strange energy. After extracting the essence of the black crystal stone, Wei Hong did not dare to relax at all. He quickly used his magic power to carefully wrap the extracted black crystal stone essence liquid, and then with a thought, the Huashan Hunun shield came in front of him. The next step is to integrate the essence liquid into the Huashan Hunun shield, which cannot afford any mistakes. Wei Hong quickly formed seals with both hands, and built a complex spiritual force field around the Huashan Hunun shield. This spiritual force field is like a huge energy vortex, tightly enveloping the Huashan Hunun shield. At this time, he slowly moved the group of Zhuanjingshi essence liquid to the top of Huashan Hunun shield, and then under the effect of the spiritual force field, the group of essence liquid began to slowly flow downward and penetrate into the Huashan Hunun shield. When the group of essence liquid touched the surface of the shield, it merged directly into it like a river into the sea. As the fusion deepened, the color of the Huashan Hunun shield gradually changed slightly. On the originally dark blue shield body, a trace of light golden lines began to emerge. These lines echoed the color of the Zhuanjingshi essence liquid, like a mysterious scroll slowly unfolding on the shield, adding a bit of mysterious and powerful atmosphere to the shield. The fusion process was very smooth. In less than a quarter of an hour, the essence of the black crystal stone was completely integrated into the Huashan Hunun shield, which instantly enhanced the aura of this magic weapon. At this time, the rune light on the surface of the shield became more dazzling, and a strong aura emanated from the shield. The fusion of the black crystal stone obviously increased the power of the Huashan Hunun shield. After feeling this breath, Wei Hong couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Haha, not bad, not bad, this is just a fusion of one secret ore. If I continue to integrate more secret ores and materials, the power of my Huashan Hunun shield will far exceed the magic weapons of the same level. At this time, the aura of this shield has been enhanced a lot, but it has not yet reached the level of the third level middle grade. If you want to continue to enhance the power, you just need to keep looking for various secret ores and materials to integrate into it. Wei Hong is full of expectations for this. He thought about it and took out a few more pieces of ore from the storage bag. These ores were found by him from the monks he had killed in the secret realm, and they came in handy at this moment. So Wei Hong threw these ores into the campfire one by one without any hesitation. Instead of keeping them for the subsequent refining of other magic weapons, it is better to use them directly to enhance the power of the existing magic weapons. As the saying goes, 10 birds in the forest are not as good as 1 bird in the hand. Since the Huashan Hunun shield has been refined by him, he should naturally find a way to enhance the power of this shield to face the war that may break out at any time. If these ores are kept to prepare for the refining of other magic weapons, it is unknown when they can be refined. So Wei Hong was very straightforward and did not need to think about it at all. He continued to output mana and maintain the burning of the campfire, allowing the campfire to continuously roast the ores and refine them one by one. After completing the refining, he repeated the previous steps and slowly integrated a few balls of essence liquid into the Huashan Hunun shield, allowing these materials to blend perfectly. An hour later, buzz! The Huashan Hunun shield shook slightly, and the surface of the shield suddenly shone brightly, and then exuded a breath that was much stronger than when it was just refined, looking quite extraordinary. Whoosh! Wei Hong's mind moved, and the shield immediately flew into the air. The next moment, he took out the red flying sword and injected 20% of his mana into it, and then slashed at the Huashan Hunun shield fiercely, without any mercy. After feeling the attack, the surface of the shield immediately flashed with mysterious light, and at the same time, a large number of complex and mysterious runes emerged, forming a thick rune shield on the surface of the shield. When the red flying sword fell, it was first absorbed by the mysterious light and part of its power was directly reduced. Then it slashed on the rune shield, but it could not break it at all, and could only make the rune shield shake slightly. Such a powerful defense immediately made Wei Hong laugh with joy. Haha, good, it is worthy of being a growing defensive magic weapon, and it did not disappoint me. After integrating several kinds of secret mines, the Huashan Hunun shield is much more powerful than the same level. Even if it cannot be compared with a third-level mid-grade magic weapon, it is not far behind. Wei Hong is naturally very satisfied. Chapter 949, The ceremony of accepting disciples. Time flies, and 3 years have passed quietly. During these 3 years, Wei Hong practiced in seclusion, isolated himself from the outside world, and devoted himself to improving his strength. In order to deal with the war that may break out at any time, he also took great pains. In the practice room of the cave, Wei Hong sat cross-legged on the futon, and the spiritual energy around him surged like a surging tide, and was constantly absorbed into his body to be refined into magic power. At this time, the Huashan Hunan shield had already been stored in his danshan, and was nourished by magic power from time to time. Under the warmth of magic power, the power of the shield was also quietly increasing. It is said that the power of magic weapons is directly related to the length of time of nourishment. Although this Huashan Hunan shield has been integrated with several kinds of secret ores, its power has been greatly improved, but this is not its limit. It only needs to continuously integrate other secret ores and rare materials in the future, and coupled with the continuous nourishment of magic power, the power of the Huashan Hunan shield can be continuously enhanced. In the past 3 years, Wei Hong has been practicing the Green Emperor longevity skill every day, constantly tempering and strengthening his magic power. At the same time, he has become more and more proficient in practicing the Shenmue strangling skill, Blood Evil secret skill, 6GS secret blessing skill, and Lin character formula. At the same time, he has invested a lot of vitality points to upgrade all these spells to the perfect state, and the power has increased a lot. In the intervals between practice, he did not forget to improve his other skills. In terms of alchemy, Wei Hong would go to some shops in Xianshan every once in a while to buy a large amount of medicinal herbs. He doesn't need to buy any elixirs at all. He can refine the 3 kinds of elixirs for improving his cultivation, namely Shinling Dan, Jiningan and Ningzhen Dan. If he only buys 3rd-level herbs, the cost is not too high. In this way, he would swallow a pill every 2 days to ensure his efficient practice speed, hoping to break through to the 2nd level of Jinden as soon as possible. In addition to practice and alchemy, Wei Hong also studied the skills of drawing talismans, refining instruments and arranging arrays. With the help of a large number of vitality points obtained from the 10,000 Snakes Abyss, he has cultivated a 16 Heavenly Armor Talisman, Mysterious Wood Explosive Thorn Talisman, 7 Stars Destroying Heaven Array, and Yin-Yang Reversal Array, to the perfect state. He is only one step away from reaching the limit state, but it requires a large amount of vitality points. In this way, Wei Hong's success rate has greatly increased whether he is drawing talismans or refining pills. Therefore, after he refined the pills and talismans, in addition to keeping the pills he took, he also stored a batch of talismans one after another, and sold all the other finished products. In this way, he earned back the spiritual stones for purchasing raw materials, and made a small profit. In addition to practicing and improving his skills, Wei Hong would secretly go to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss every year. The 10,000 Snakes Abyss is full of a large number of monsters, which is the best choice for obtaining vitality points at this stage. He sent papermen to constantly hunt snake monsters below the Jinden stage, and he himself looked for lone Jinden stage monsters. In this way, both vitality points and monster materials can be obtained. As for the small black crystal vein, it had been completely dug out by him 2 years ago. During the 3 years of seclusion, Wei Hong did not forget to collect intelligence from all sides. Every once in a while, he would collect information about the movements of the state of Chu and the various situations of the Day Dynasty, as well as the movements of other forces in the world of immortal cultivation, all of which were within his collection range. Moreover, he occasionally purchased intelligence from the Xianji Pavilion in order to grasp the approximate time of the invasion of the state of Chu. Fortunately, according to the current intelligence information, the state of Chu has no signs of taking action within the time limit. After a long period of seclusion, Wei Hong rarely walked out of the training room today. He lay on a recliner in the courtyard, looking very leisurely. At this time, a trace of formation fluctuations suddenly came from outside the door. Huh? Wei Hong opened his eyes with a look of surprise. He stretched out his hand and a sound transmission note was taken in from outside the door. The City Lord's sound transmission note. After seeing the logo of this sound transmission note, Wei Hong became even more confused. Since it was the City Lord's sound transmission note, he naturally did not dare to neglect it. He immediately opened the sound transmission note to see what the City Lord wanted to see him about. But after a moment, Wei Hong's face became more confused. He frowned and murmured, "Giant and disciple recruiting ceremony? What does this mean?" He did not expect that the city lord sent him a sound transmission note to invite him to participate in a so-called giant and disciple recruiting ceremony, which really surprised him. This sound transmission note only talked about the giant and disciple recruiting ceremony and asked him to attend it. The time was set at noon 7 days later at the city lord's mansion. Wei Hong was a little confused for a while. What was the purpose of holding such a so-called disciple recruiting ceremony? Why do we have to hold such a ceremony for no reason? Wei Hong was quite confused, and then thought to himself, since it is the giant and disciple recruiting ceremony, and there are only 6 or 7 giant and cultivators in Kangshan Immortal City now, are we all asked to accept disciples? But I have no plan to accept disciples yet. Thinking of this, Wei Hong frowned deeply. Since he set foot in the world of immortal cultivation, he has always been used to being alone, and he has a big secret, so how could he think of accepting disciples? But from the city lord Lei Ling's intention, he wanted all the giant and cultivators in the immortal city to accept some disciples. He didn't know what he wanted to do, but he didn't want to accept disciples from the bottom of his heart. And he changed his mind at this time, and he understood the intention of the city lord Lei Ling. Hey, it seems that there are only 3 purposes for us giant and cultivators to accept disciples. First, in order to absorb fresh blood and restore the vitality of the immortal city as soon as possible. Second, with the influence of accepting disciples, the various forces under the command of the immortal city can be closely tied to the immortal city and gather strong centripetal force. Third, I want to cultivate more giant and cultivators for the immortal city to fight against a major sects. Wei Hong was not stupid. He just thought about it briefly and guessed Lei Ling's real intention, and he guessed it almost right. But he couldn't refuse Lei Ling's idea directly. After all, as one of the guests of the immortal city, he has been enjoying good treatment since joining the immortal city, and he has not completed any tasks. If Lei Ling and others really ask him to accept disciples, it would be difficult for him to refuse. Forget it, let's see when the time comes. If it doesn't work, just accept 2 at random. Wei Hong shook his head and stopped thinking about it. It happened that he had been in seclusion for a long time, so it would be good to take this opportunity to go out and take a breath. And he can also take the opportunity to find other people to inquire about the situation of Dai Dynasty and Chu State, and see if anyone knows what the Demon Cultivation sect and Chu State is doing. If a war really breaks out, I will definitely not be able to leave the immortal city in the early stage. It is much safer here than outside. But in the middle and late stages of the war, if the situation is very unfavorable, then I may have to consider fleeing to another country. Thinking of this, Wei Hong's heart once again aroused a trace of worry. After a moment, he suppressed this trace of worry and continued to close his eyes to rest. Chapter 950 Jinden accepts a disciple. 7 days later. Kangshan Immortal City. Wei Hong left the cave an hour earlier and walked slowly towards the city lord's mansion. When he walked onto the streets of the Immortal City, he found that the Immortal City had become prosperous again, and there were more and more foundation-building faces appearing, as if a lot of vitality had been restored. Tisk, decades after the war, the Immortal City has finally recovered some vitality, and the prosperity is not much worse than before. Looking at the scene in the Immortal City, Wei Hong couldn't help but sigh secretly. Now there are obviously more foundation-building cultivators on the streets, shops are lined up, people come and go, a scene of prosperity and revival. Compared with when he joined the Immortal City a few years ago, it is obviously a lot more lively. He slowly came to the door of the city lord's mansion, and was warmly welcomed in by a disciple of the city lord. Haha, fellow Taoist Mu, you are finally out of retreat. After entering the most spacious hall of the city lord's mansion, he happened to meet Yang Yi, and then Yang Yi walked over with a big laugh, looking very familiar. They were both the 2 major guests of the Immortal City, and naturally had a lot of exchanges on weekdays. Wei Hong also chuckled and said, "Fellow Taoist Yang, you came early enough. It seems that you should accept many disciples today, right?" His words were full of ridicule, but in fact, they were also a test. Sure enough, Yang Yi immediately waved his hand and smiled bitterly. "Hey, fellow Taoist Mu, don't laugh at me. No one can escape this time. This is also the intention of the city lord. I suggest you accept too as well." As soon as these words came out, Wei Hong knew that it was inevitable to accept disciples today. So he laughed and started chatting with Yang Yi. At this time, In this hall, except for the city lord who had not yet appeared, many cultivators had already come. These were all forces under the command of the Immortal City. They were all foundation-building cultivators, at least 500 or 600 people. After Wei Hong and Yang Yi came in, the surrounding foundation-building cultivators immediately cast their eyes over. There was both awe and expectation in these eyes, and many foundation-building cultivators immediately surrounded them, trying to get close to them first. Obviously, if giant cultivators like Wei Hong wanted to recruit disciples, they should choose from these forces, and it would be impossible to give those casual cultivators a chance. Wei Hong didn't have any idea about this. He nodded to the cultivators around him casually. After sending them away, he sat down with Yang Yi. Deputy City Lord Bidang Mo had already arrived, and behind him stood Wei Hong's acquaintance Ding Zhu. However, Wei Hong didn't show any abnormality. He didn't even look at Ding Zhu. He just greeted Bidang Mo, and then slowly drank spiritual tea and waited for the ceremony of recruiting disciples to begin. He could clearly feel that many foundation-building cultivators were looking at him with warm and expectant eyes. Soon, noon was coming. Ling. With a melodious bell sound, City Lord Lei Ling appeared in the hall surrounded by a group of guards and servants. Lei Ling was wearing a golden robe with complicated runes embroidered on it, a purple gold crown on his head, and his face was majestic and solemn. After he came in, everyone present greeted him respectfully. Lei Ling smiled and nodded, walked straight through the crowd to the top, and then slowly swept his eyes over the people in the audience. The whole hall instantly became quiet, and everyone held their breath, waiting for the City Lord's speech. Dear Taoist friends from the Immortal City, we are gathered here today to witness this extraordinary giant and disciple recruiting ceremony. Decades ago, our Kangshan Immortal City suffered a heavy blow from the Blood Spirit sect, and countless ancestors fought bloody battles to save our homeland. Now, the Immortal City has begun to gradually recover with the joint efforts of everyone, and this disciple recruiting ceremony is an important step for us to move towards a stronger future. We hope that by accepting disciples, the inheritance of the Immortal City can be continued and the strength of the Immortal City can be taken to a higher level. At the same time, we also hope that all forces can take this opportunity to unite more closely and jointly protect our Kangshan Immortal City. Lei Ling's voice was powerful and reverberated in the hall. Every word was full of love and expectations for the Immortal City, which also excited everyone present. Everyone applauded. The applause was thunderous, expressing their support and respect for the City Lord, and at the same time full of expectations. After all, having a giant and cultivator as a backer is something that most cultivators dare not dream of, but the disciple recruiting ceremony held by the Immortal City today can make some people realize their wishes. With the guidance of the giant and cultivator, perhaps their chances of breaking through to the giant and stage will be greatly increased. For such a good thing, all the foundation-building cultivators present were eager to get it. Lei Ling pressed his hands, waiting for the applause to subside, and then he said loudly again, "You all know that there are only 7 giant and cultivators left in our Kangshan Immortal City. I have many things to do, so I will not participate in this disciple recruiting event, so the other 6 Taoist friends can be recruited as disciples. These 6 Taoist friends are sitting here, and you all know them." Lei Ling pointed to his left, and Bidang Mo and others just sat down one by one. Except for Bidang Mo, Yang Yi and Wei Hong, the remaining 3 giant and cultivators are all disciples of Kangshan's Henrun. One of them is named Su Ziji, who holds the position of Deputy City Lord. The other 2 are Luo Heng and Qin Fan, each of whom holds an important position in the Fairy City. Then Lei Ling continued, "Next, all the Taoist friends who want to become disciples, please come to the center of the hall one by one. Briefly introduce yourself to the 6 Taoist friends, and talk about what skills you are good at. Whether you can successfully become a disciple depends entirely on the decision of the 6 Taoist friends and your own performance. You can also directly tell which Taoist friend you want to become a disciple, and the 6 Taoist friends can directly accept any good seedlings you like. 6 Taoist friends, I hope that you can all succeed in accepting disciples today and contribute to the growth and development of our Kangshan Fairy City. Please don't refuse." At this point, everyone understood. Wei Hong and others were a little helpless, but they could no longer refuse. At this time, the disciple accepting ceremony officially began, and a young cultivator stood up impatiently. "Lord City Lord, there are 6 seniors. I am Du Zhe, a 3rd-generation member of the Du family. I am now at the 6th level of foundation building. I know a little about alchemy and I am practicing the family inherited technique, Kyanitans Hentaju. I want to worship Senior Bidang as my teacher and hope to get your guidance. This person was respectful. He first bowed to the city lord and Wei Hong and others, then briefly introduced himself and said that he wanted to worship Bidang Mo as his teacher. Because this person knows how to make alchemy, and Bidang Mo is not only the deputy city lord, but also the head of Dang Wong Pavilion before. He is good at alchemy, so he is naturally the best choice for this person. After speaking, Du Zhe looked at Bidang Mo with expectation. However, Bidang Mo just nodded slightly and did not express his opinion immediately. Seeing this, Du Zhe couldn't help but show a trace of disappointment on his face, and then retreated respectfully. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.